Right guys, so I have to put a disclaimer. It's a shame society's come to such a degree that we have to put disclaimers in. So guys, I'm using this information from the website, but it's from Andrew Goff. Now I don't know him personally, so that's a disclaimer. You know, 'cause some people think because I'm reading information out that I take long walks on the beach with him. No, I don't know him. But the information runs parallel to some of the stuff I've talked about in the last few videos. So that's what I want to share, because it goes into a little bit in depth on other things that I've not covered yet. I've talked about, but not gone into great detail. And this chap's took time, done all this, and there's a lot of information. The page is huge, and that is what I'm going to read out. So I have to go from how I look at things. It's like, well, I don't like just putting pieces of paper on the screen and reading it out, and I soon lose interest. So I've figured out different ways on how I would do it. And one of these is I'll put myself in the corner in a box when I get to it, and I'll read it out. So I'm not going to read it out in one day. There's going to be some fashion changes. It could be night, it could be day, but I'll go through them all. Frog in my throat. So let's begin. So what you're seeing on the screen, I just fixed my glasses, is what you'll see if you click on the link. If you want to read along as I'm talking, you can do that. The link will be in the description below, and you can follow it at your leisure if that's what you want to do. Or you can just check it out after I've read it, and you can just take your time with it. It's, like I said, it's really in depth. There's loads of information on there, and it gets me excited, because it runs parallel, like I've just said, to my information. So that's the website you'll see. It's by the Andrew Goff, and he's written it in 2020. And I'm just going to go through it. I'm going to show different images that he has from the site. So, you know, I don't know if you get done for things like this when you do complete websites like this. I don't know. I know it's under fair use, but hey, we still have to do what we have to do. So before you start, you will need an open mind. You have to. Because I'm throwing out a theory that has been there for eons. A lot of people have talked about inner earth or hollow earth, and I'm now saying cave within a cave, or I'm talking about the hourglass. Now it's easy for you to pick apart, or well, you don't do this, you've not done that, you've not equated to put this in. How would it work in your model? I've never once said it's perfect. I'm starting on this journey. I've been looking in this for 2-3 years, the cave theory. And I need people with better brains, smarter than me, to help me along. And that's where you come in. You know, you can agree to disagree in some things. I've done a lot on this series, and I've showed you different things on, hey, how could the sun be in this? What are the stars in this? How can there be clouds in this? And so on and so on. You just have to watch all the content. And again, it ain't meant to be perfect, because I'm not lambasting you and saying this is a fact. I'm just thinking, hey, why can I see validity in everyone's model? Because we're in a simulation which also fits in this chamber, in this room, but also this cave within a cave within a cave, inner worlds, just like the Nordic realms. It just makes sense that they're all caves. So let's begin again. I say it many times, but you know what I'm like. So I will be in the corner in the video box, and I keep thinking, yeah, this will work. So I'll click on the page, and that will come up. So it's Race for the Relics of the Inner Earth. So we did this in 2020, and I don't even know what to do with my hands because you can watch me. So I'll just go like that and try and act casually chill. So Earth is over 4.5 billion years old. I think in one of the things I did many moons ago, that one of the actual official figures adds to 11. Just a coincidence. Reflect upon that and ask yourself, is it realistic to think that the human race is its first and only civilized inhabitants? Accounts of the inner Earth, the civilizations that allegedly reside there, and chambers of ancient relics that are purported to be preserved in their kingdoms, are subjects that have been relegated to folklore, fantasy and fiction. But what if they are real? Yes, that's just the thing. What if? And you know, I like a good what if. What if their knowledge is advanced and coveted by shadowy factions who seek to exploit it today. Sounds absurd, perhaps, but the evidence is mounting. My investigation will explore the possibility that there is in fact a race for relics for the inner earth. So that's what he's talking about in this website, this blog, or whatever you want to call it. And he just goes through different things, folklore, just showing you the possibility that what I've been talking about. We're in a cave within a cave within a cave. So he starts off with an image basically about Woolpit village sign, and it's about the green children of Woolpit. Now I've heard of this because obviously it's from my neck of the woods, and it's the legends of the green people, because you can see, like he will get into, but there's history of different green people around, but this is an unusual one. Are these 12th century accounts lying? Quite possibly. Are they over exaggerating? Could the children have had something? Quite possibly. But then you also have to say, were they from somewhere else? That's the thing, because you have all cultures talking about realms underground. So the 12th century account of the green children of Woolpit is perhaps the earliest and best documented case for the presence of intelligent life beneath the surface of the planet. The legend states that 2 young children, a brother and sister, were discovered by villagers beside one of the wolf pits that gave the village its name, Wolf Pit in Old English. Much to the bewilderment of the villagers, the children lacked any resemblance to other boys and girls. Their skin was green. They dressed oddly, spoke an unknown language, and struggled to digest food. Before long, the boy died of malnutrition, but his sister preserved. She survived, learned English, and lived a relatively normal life, except for her allegedly wanton behaviour. So, the tale of the green children of the Woolpit is thought to have taken place in Suffolk, England, during the reign of King Stephen, 1154, but it had not been for William of Newburgh's Historia Rerum Anglicarum, 1189, and Ralph of Coggeshall's, 1227, Chronicum Alicum, a mouthful there for me, we may never have heard of it. Newburgh, in particular, was the blogger of the day and was a young man during the time of the Woolpits incident. What he reported of the story is enthralling. So again, this is down to you to believe in it or not. Newburgh stated that after learning English, the children offered an insight into their homeland. We are inhabitants of the land of St. Martin, who is regarded with peculiar veneration in the county which gave us birth. When asked where St. Martin's land was and how they arrived in the Woolpit, this is what they replied with. So again, I can't speak for the validity of this. That's common sense for you at home to think, yeah, I can't. I'm just reading it from a site. We are ignorant of both these circumstances. We only remember this, that on a certain day when we were feeding our father's flocks in the fields, we heard a great sound. Again, this sound that I keep talking about, these horns, this frequency of the layers changing, such as we are now accustomed to hear at St. Edmund's when the bells are chiming, and whilst listening to the sound in admiration, we became on a sudden, as it were, entranced and found ourselves among you in the fields where you were reaping. Upon being questioned further, the children added, the sun does not rise upon our countrymen, our land is little cheered by its beams. We are contented with that twilight which among you precedes the sunrise or follows the sunset. Moreover, a certain luminous country is seen, not far distant from us and divided from it by a very considerable river. Newburgh's claim his account was based on reports from a number of trustworthy sources, while Coggeshall's report cites his source as Sir Richard de Callan of Wyke, who is said to have provided refuge for the green children in the nearby manor. Ralph adds a similar account, but with a slightly different twist to Newburgh's story. So the girl enjoyed continual good health and became accustomed to various kinds of food, lost completely that green colour, and gradually recovered the sanguine habit of her entire body. She was afterwards regenerated by the laver of the holy baptism, and lived for many years in the service of that night, as I had frequently heard from him and his family, and was rather loose and wanton in her conduct. Being frequently asked about the people of her country, she asserted that the inhabitants and all they had in the country were of green colour, and that they saw no sun, but enjoyed a degree of light like that, after sunset. Being asked how she came into this country with the aforesaid boy, she replied that as they were following their flocks, they came to a certain cavern, on entering which they heard a delightful sound of bells. This sound. Ravished by those sweetness, they went for a long time wandering on through the cavern until they came to its mouth. When they came out, they were struck senseless by an excessive light of the sun and the unusual temperature in the air, and thus lay there for a long time. Being terrified by the noise of those who came on, they wished to fly, but they could not find the entrance of the cavern before they were caught. Both accounts are extraordinary, and one could be forgiven for seeing veiled similarities to the ancient tale of Jack and the Beanstalk, the story of innocent child's ascent up a giant green beanstalk to a world of giants, folklore that is now thought to date back over 5,000 years. Intriguingly, in the 18th and 19th centuries, there was an affliction known as green sickness, which was described as a condition peculiar to virgin women, especially those approaching puberty. Pills for young, love-derived women were sold to address the green sickness, but the fastest cure was believed to be intercourse, since semen was thought to settle the womb, discolor the blood and cure the depression. The accounts of these green children of Woolpit are fascinating, yet merely skim the surface of the green people prototype. They then obviously show an image of Osiris Green, as you know. So he's putting these two and two together. So throughout history, many iconic figures have been portrayed as green-skinned, such as Osiris, the Egyptian god of the underworld. Again, underworld and his colour. Different sun, different radiations of light. Makes sense, doesn't it? But I'm assuming they all don't have the same plasma ball that we have floating around, and which I then talked about, remember, in the last video, because they're showing you that the sound with the plasma can make it levitate, and that's what we get. So many believe Osiris was the inspiration for the pagan green man fertility motif, and remember who the green man is associated. I've showed you early accounts of it being a certain Janus or Janus. Fertility motif that are found in almost every ancient culture, of which is still celebrated today. Even the Egyptian pyramid text referred to Horus as Lord of the Green Stone. So it's intriguing, isn't it? And then show images of a green man. Was Osiris the prototype for the pagan green man he talks about? So fast forward to the time of the Green Knight, as featured in the 14th century romance Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Here, I think they even made that into, is it an Amazon series or something? Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Here, the protagonist acquires his name due to his green skin and clothes. Adding to his mystique, the Green Knight performs dazzling party tricks by regenerating his head after he had been decapitated. Around the time, Michael Pacquer's painting of a green devil reinforced the notion that the colour green carried a universal significance to those who portrayed otherworldly creatures. I'll put an image of that on the screen for you also. Poetic contemporaries such as Chaucer also made associations between the colour green and the devil, but why? So all those images will be on the website, but also for you guys to look at home. Mythical animals such as dragons are also depicted as green or blue. In many languages, the words used to describe the colours blue and green are interchangeable, and they are, because I have checked that. For instance, the ancient Egyptian word wadjet describes a range of colours, which this is true, comprising blue, blue-green and green. With that in mind, we turn to Ramayana, one of the two major Sanskrit epics of ancient India, where we learn of the blue-skinned Rama who came from the inner earth and who arrived on the surface in a chariot. Again, I'm not saying these are all facts. I'm not going to check everything out because I'll be there for months. So again, that's the disclaimer, common sense peeps. So, who came from the inner earth, who arrived on a surface in a chariot. Is it any wonder that green is used to embody the supernatural or spiritual world? And also you get Rama portrayed in blue also. And references to St. Martin's Land appear in the most unexpected of places. So this is intriguing. Such as the map of La Coruna, a drawing created by Sir Francis Drake. The famed initiate and explorer of the Elizabethan era depicted a city in the northwestern Spain. However, Brenda Greenslade, a friend of mine and highly respected researcher, believes the map does not identify a location in Spain, but rather Oak Island, which, if many of you have not watched, I have watched over the years, is intriguing, and has highlighted the fact that a location on the map is called St. Martin's Platform. Might this be an entrance to an in-earth region where the children of Woolpit were from? So again, it's all hearsay. The peculiar mention of St. Martin's Platform on the La Coruna map, and it's in the Library of Congress. And I'll show you these images if I can get a hold of them, and you can just look, are these the same places or not? References to St. Martin's are often associated with important lineages, such as the British royal family, whose parish church in London is St. Martin's in the Fields. Prince Charles is, obviously now he's king, Prince Charles is a patron, and serendipitously, Charles' advocacy of the British countryside has earned him the reputation of being green. One land that is undeniably green and which is named after the purported colour is Greenland. And you know all the significance of that lately with all the political parties and Trump and so on. And here we find another curious tale of inner earth. Greenland was settled by Vikings from Iceland in the 10th century, beginning with the voyager Eric the Red in 985, who arrived with a fleet of 14 long ships. The Norsemen soon established 2 settlements with hundreds of farms, and at their peak comprised over 3,000 settlers. However, by 1450, the inhabitants were gone without a trace. Where did they go? We find a clue in the Eskimo tradition, which recounts how the villagers migrated north to the land of the endless summer and descended into a land of eternal bliss inside the earth, the inner earth. This tale is fascinating, but arguably the most spectacular account of the inner earth is one that goes by the name of Agartha. And I show you different things on that, didn't I, in recent videos. So that's where I'm just going to take a break for now, because I've got things to do. But don't tell anyone. And we'll be back again. Back again. So hopefully guys you're enjoying it. This little bit different. I had to talk about it because there's a lot of good stuff in this that, you know, it's just refreshing your mind to my theory. Not just my personal theory, but how I've done it. Sounds bad when I say that, doesn't it? Right, let's stop it now. And we'll retake it soon. Right, I'm back. And today's t-shirt is The Mysterious Cities of Gold. Now that's showing my age to anyone who is a good researcher. A brilliant cartoon and animation series from my youth. Those years were the best cartoons ever. And if you just want to know what I'm on about, please just go to YouTube now. Stop and put it in and listen to the intro, and you know why I've got it in my head now, and I wish I could play it now, but you know what they're like for copyright. They're so weird. So let's continue. I've got that song in my head now. So we're on to it and we're beginning. So legends of the inner earth. There are many legends of the inner earth, and the heyday literature seems to have peaked between the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The tradition commences with the author Jules Verne, initiate of many esoteric disciplines, who penned a journey to the centre of the earth. You've either read it or you saw the films based on it. In Verne's classic tale, a German professor by the name of Otto Lindenbrock believes volcanic tubes lead towards the centre of the earth, and it takes a group of smaller researchers underground with the entrance in the Icelandic volcano. While inside the earth, the group encounter prehistoric animals, including a mammoth, as well as many natural hazards, before resurfacing in southern Italy at the Stromboli volcano. For all practical purposes, however, it is the English writer and politician Edward Bulwer Lytton, 1803 to 1873, who gets the Agartha Party started with his vivid and allegedly real-life account of miners who discover an entrance to inner earth beneath the camp. So while editing this, I had to stop it for a sec because Edward Lytton and Jules Verne, if you look at the photographs, one of them obviously has been made into colour. Is it just me, or is it a striking resemblance? I just thought it was too much, you know what I mean? It's not identical, but you can see what I'm getting at. They're like a little bit younger version of it. It's like, hey, these do look identical, nearly. I don't know if it's just my eyes or I've had a long night, but I can see the resemblance. Right, let's just intercede. So it might sound different when I restart again because I've just had to edit this in just to show you, hey, these guys look quite similar. So you've got to think, guys, is everyone telling porkies? Because they might. But they could be telling the truth, an account of something that happened, hallucinations, just trying to promote an agenda. There's all of the above. Everything's right and everything's wrong. But there is that small little piece that, yes, they found something. And when you just have one literal example, you have to be skeptical. But just 2, 3, and so on. There's thousands and thousands out there. If you just go and look, and you'll find so much counter argument and lying. Because what you're doing now, when you search the internet, it's basically AI doing it for you, and AI lies. So, Bulwer Lytton was a prolific writer who coined the line, "The pen is mightier than the sword." His seminal work, however, was Vril, The Power of the Coming Race, which he published in 1871. In Bulwer Lytton's account, miners observed a bright light beneath their encampment and investigated, only to discover an ancient lost race known as Anya, A-N-A, who descended many thousands of years before Noah. The idyllic land is powered by Vril, a primal energy that can both heal and destroy, and which fuels the technology of an ancient Aryan race. It is no wonder the work is believed to influence Adolf Hitler and his manifesto Mein Kampf. So, and I'll put an image of Edward Bulwer Lytton on the screen for you so you can see. So William Reed is another Golden Age Inner Earth author who promoted the existence of inhabited inner Earth in his 1906 book Phantom of the Poles. Reed's controversial work proposes that the Earth is hollow and can be entered at the poles. Now it's funny, remember that my very old theory, which is based on air fact of sorts. I talk about giants a lot, and one of his primary roles is obviously the transitions, but doors, gates, and portals. So, isn't it a coincidence that there is 2 islands, one in Greenland at the north, and one at the south in Antarctica, and they're both named Janus Janus? Now, to me, that should make anyone's eyebrows. But I've been talking about that for 5 years or more. And people just don't, not apart from you guys, but people on a whole who are, again, there's people out there who can make better connections to me and find greater stuff, that these guys need to take the mantle on and take it further. Because it's just showing you that there's 2 doors or gateways or portals or something at these 2 locations. Just these 2. Makes you think. Where vast continents, oceans, mountains and rivers exist alongside races unknown to surface dwellers. Reed also featured Fridtjof Waddell Jansen Nansen, 1861 to 1930, a Norwegian explorer, scientist, diplomat, humanitarian and Nobel Peace Prize laureate whose 3-year expedition to the North Pole produced numerous discoveries and anomalies, which he documented in his 1897 best-selling book, Farthest North. With respect to Jansen's detailed diaries, which chronicle many unexplained observations about the appearance of the day and nighttime skies, Reed Reed concludes, the fact Nansen was going to the interior of the Earth while he was under the impression that he was going north. And I'll put an image, if I can find one, of the explorer Fridtjof. In 1908, the American novelist, newspaper lawyer, politician and promoter Willis George Emerson, who I basically talked about a few weeks ago, and is basically the author of The Smoky God, which I'm trying to read out for you guys, which will be coming soon, or is before this, I don't know. It's whatever I can finish first. It'll probably be this, but just how my brain works, guys. So he penned what is claimed to be a true account of a journey to Inner Earth, the Smoky God, a voyage to Inner Earth. The tale elaborates on the adventures of Olaf Jansen, a Norwegian who sailed with his father through an entrance to the Earth's interior at the North Pole. Having been forced off course by a terrible storm, for 2 years Jansen lived with the inhabitants of an underground network of colonies who were 12 feet tall and whose world was lit by a smoky central sun. The capital city was known as the Garden of Eden. It's funny that, isn't it? And I've been talking about that being in caves. And consisted of an elder race who lived up to 800 years old, just like some of the biblical people in there. Jansen and his father rode on fast objects with revolving wheels that defied gravity. Ultimately, they escaped, but in the process, Olaf's father died. Jansen was rescued by a fisherman, recounted his sensational story, and was swiftly placed in an asylum for the insane for the next 20 years of his life. The French occultist and author Alexandre Saint-Yves de Alaverdure builds on the popular Inner Earth tradition with a significant contribution. Saint-Yves was an influential writer who had a great influence on a number of esoteric notables, from Gerard and Kos, who described him as the intellectual teacher to historic thought leaders. Heavenly Blavatsky, and she's someone that, if it's the same one, showed that Janos is also Lucifer, is also so many other gods. It is the forefather to Kronos and Saturn. Rudolf Steiner and René Guénon. In 1885, Saint-Yves was visited by Eastern initiates who taught him the ancient language of Sanskrit and the mysteries of the lost Inner Earth kingdom of Agartha. The following year, he published a book, Mission of India in Europe, republished as The Kingdom of Agartha, A Journey into the Hollow Earth, about the whole affair, and it included some fascinating insights, especially with regard to the conditions upon which the people of Inner Earth will return. He states that the secret world of Agartha and all its wisdom and wealth will be accessible for all mankind when Christianity lives up to the commandments which once drafted by Moses and God, and when the anarchy which exists in our world is replaced by synarchy. So it just makes you think, doesn't it, that, you know, these gods, because many gods seem to come from the water, come from the caves. They have all the shrines and everything, don't they? And, I'm just thinking out loud, was these gods coming from Inner Earth and saying, hey, we'll help you, like they did with the ant people, but, you have to change your ways. This next bit is Saint-Yves, but I'm not reading his full name. Saint-Yves or Yves added that the civilization of Agartha transferred to the underground around 32,000 BCE, and that millions of interterrestrials remain there, ruled by priest kings, their language being Vatun or Vatanian. He also cited many physical attributes of the Agarthans, for instance, the fact that they have 2 tongues and can speak different languages simultaneously. I will return to the insights of Saint-Yves, for they are vital to our understanding of the so-called race for the relics of the Inner Earth. Shortly after the publication of his book, he feared he had revealed too much and set about destroying every copy he could find. It seems he was successful in eradicating all traces of the book except for one, a copy owned by his publisher, Gerard and Kos, or Cosset, the founder of the Martinist order and pioneering of all things occult, who published the work in 1910. Oh, 1 and 9 is 10, add 1 is 11. Funny that, isn't it? The tradition of Agartha continued to evolve, and in 1922 a Polish scientist by the name of Ferdynand Ossendowski published his own account, Beasts, Men and Gods, which featured the prophecy of the return of the inner or interterrestrials to the surface of the earth. His account stated that the king of the world, who lives in Agartha, met with the lamas, gurus and other spiritual advanced leaders in Tibetan Buddhism in 1890 and informed them of the events that would proceed to the people's return. These include 50 years of strife and misery, 71 years of happiness under the three great kings, 18 years of war followed by the appearance of the Agarthans in 2029. The curious thing about the return of the Agarthans in 2029 is the current belief that 2030 will usher in radical new forms of government, protocols and spiritual awakenings, including the return of the ho virus. Remarkably, that virus that was all in a ritual to Janus. The first person died on that day in January. Mask making you two-faced. That one that I was the one to show you guys it was. And it's still denied today. Funny that, isn't it? And it was the remarkable that alleged virus was prophesied by the author Dean Koontz in 1981's best-selling book The Eyes of Darkness, published in 1989, with updated details about a virus originating not in Russia as in first edition, but in Wuhan, China. Koontz introduces us to that virus, a perfect weapon that will strike in around 2020. With a pneumonia-like illness will spread throughout the globe, attacking the lungs and so on and so on. So that's just basically about the book. And you have to watch what you say anyway. So prophecy aside, a few years later in 1927, René Guénon, follower of both St. Yves and Magus Papus, who is Gerard in Corsair, published the book The King of the World, adding his own twists and turns to the Inner Earth story. The collective works on the controversial subject became a central doctrine to the Nazi Thule, the Thule Society, a German occult group founded in Munich after the First World War. A few decades later, public fascination with the Inner Earth and ancient civilizations that existed far earlier than a conventional believed was revived by the work of three European authors led by Peter Colosimo, an Italian journalist and writer who challenged academia with his groundbreaking books on forbidden archaeology. The French writer Robert Charroux, best known as Robert Joseph Grugau, also joined the fray with his writings on the ancient astronaut inner Earth theory. Rounding out the trilogy were Marcel Francois Raphael Homais, a French archaeologist and anthropologist who conducted extensive research on ancient civilizations that he believed were connected to Atlantis. And remember, at 12, in front of my class, I stood up and said, "We are Atlantis, and we are in an enclosed system inside underground." That went down well. My mother was straightly brought in, and she's like, "Yeah, that's just Paul." And don't you dare say anything against him or bring me in. It was so hilarious. I do remember that bit. So collectively, the three researchers who were absolutely shook the genre in an age long before the internet inspired Erich von Däniken, who everyone knows now, the Swiss author whose books about extraterrestrial influences. You also have been talking about Charroux and Homais, some of whom attempted to sue Däniken. Today, researchers such as Klaus Donner, Graham Hancock, and Michael Cremo continue the research, the tradition of the earliest ancient history genre. And again, I don't get triggered by these names. I know some people do want to tell this and tell this. It's information to me. Everything's information, whether they wanted to promote something, have an agenda, it's still information. There's always tidbits that you can use and find in all these people's works. We have reviewed both fictional and real-life accounts of alleged visits to the inner Earth. Of course, there are many, many other far older traditions. So I'm going to stop it there. and we'll carry on again. Who knows when? I don't know. Just don't. When I get a free time, guys. So hopefully you're enjoying it. I'm loving it because it's just an insight to other information that I may have not included in the playlist that I have on my cave theory. Right, guys, I'll see you soon. So, hello again. And yes, a different t-shirt. And it's the Knights Who Say Knee run the clip.
Who are you?
We are the Knights Who Say Knee.
No, not the Knights Who Say
Home Dead Advanced and Dead Professional. So guys, let's carry on, and I've looked where we're up to. And here we go. So we're just carrying on the information and then adding stuff and having a little chat like we do. And you guys should be able to still see me. So in Ireland, medieval knights and saints embarked on pilgrimages to a cave on Station Island, where they descended into the earth. And in Northern Ireland, a tunnel leads to the land of the subterranean Tuatha De Dan, who are believed to have introduced Druidism to Ireland and then gone back underground. Obviously, some people say they came by boat and so on, but this is obviously another myth. And I'm going to put an image of Station Island on the screen so you can see. And this will coincide with the bell tower on Station Island stands on a mound that is the site of a cave, which, according to Verdi Smiths, is an entrance to a place of purgatory inside the earth. The cave has been closed since 25th of October 1632. It's crazy, isn't it? Because, again, we've only scratched the surface, but you've already heard of different cultures already talking about caves being entrances to the underworld and this hollow earth theory that I just call it cave within a cave. But if you remember, it's just basically a room, a chamber, a cell. So in Mexican folklore, a mountain cave provides access to inner earth, and Mexico itself is said to be possessed by devilish creatures who came from inside the earth. In Nordic tradition, the inner earth is known as the home of the evil elves. And when I saw that, if you've not followed me for a while, you would have seen my other playlist, The Realm of El Evan, and people have always talked about the elves in regard to this, how much connections I've shown over the years in regard to this 11, but it's the elves. So are we in what this Nordic tradition talks about, the home of the evil elves? In Turkey and Mongolia, the inner earth is known as Ergenekon and is located in inaccessible valleys of the Altai Mountains. So like anything, I want to branch off and mention certain things and just check the validity and what's out there, other information's out there. So Ergenekon is, according to the information I saw, is a legendary valley in Turkic mythology and a name used by a real-world alleged clandestine organisation in Turkey. So that's why a lot of it is hushed up, because obviously of that association, but it's not directly associated with the concept of inner earth. In tradition, mythology, or modern science, the idea of a land inside the earth is a feature of the hollow earth theory, which author refers to a mythical underground kingdom called Agartha. So it's all about Ergenekon in the real world. The name Ergenekon was famously used by an alleged clandestine ultranationalist organisation in Turkey. This group was accused in a series of high-profile trials of plotting to foment unrest and orchestrate a coup against the government, with the ultimate goal of establishing a deep state. The organisation was named after the mythical valley to evoke a sense of national resilience and return to strength. So they're saying it doesn't exist, but then it's based on this. So you can see how things happen when you start to research. So let's carry on. So the Ergenekon legend is an origin myth telling of an ancient Turkic people who, after a military defeat, took refuge in an inaccessible enclosed valley in the Altai Mountains. They lived there for centuries until the population grew too large. A blacksmith then melted a passage through a mountain with fire, and a grey wolf, Bozkır, guided them out to regain their strength and expand across the steppe. The story is a powerful symbol of resilience, renewal and national identity, commemorated in a New Year ceremony. And here where it gets Also, you know, mythical as such, or fictional. While some modern esoteric and fictional interpretations, such as the Marvel Database comics, depict Urkon as a pocket dimension or a god realm with a nexus point in the Altai Mountains. This is a fictional adaptation and not part of the original myth or established scientific understanding. Scientific evidence has long confirmed that the Earth has a solid, layered structure across mantle and core. So you can just see how many things is. And I've saw other articles saying that this place was a prison, that they were trapped in a prison and they escaped. So you can just see how when you, like I was saying earlier, when you search for something, AI is getting involved and adapting and telling lies or showing what they want projected. It's very hard now to come to an understanding of what's going on. That's why you have to just deep dive and use countless sites to say maybe corroborate a thought in your head, because the information, there's just too much information out there now, but also it's also controlled. So I'll put an image of the Altai Mountains and so on, so you can just see. In Native American mythology, ancient ancestors emerged from a subterranean land through a cave in the Missouri River. In ancient Germany mythology, certain mountains conceal a portal to the inner earth. A Russian legend tells of an ancient Siberian tribe which travelled to a cavern city inside the earth and settled there. In Peru, Inca ancestors are believed to have come from the caves east of Cusco. In Cuban tradition, their ancestors, the Taino, are believed to have emerged from two caves in a sacred mountain. Brazilian Indians claim that their forefathers emerged from an underground land and that their ancestors remain inside the earth. In Hindu mythology, the underworld, the inner earth, is referred to as Patala. In Tibetan Buddhist belief, the inner earth was known as Shambhala or Shangri-La, and in the Altai Mountains in Central Eastern Asia, folklore states that Mount Baluka is one of its many gateways. While there are many more traditions, the most famous accounts of the inner earth remain Shangri-La, obviously. Everyone has heard of that. A mythical realm inspired by the legend of Shambhala, a civilization in the inner earth whose Sanskrit name translates as place of silence. Intriguingly, in 1985, the 14th Dalai Lama, who is said to be the terrestrial representative of Shambhala, shared some quite extraordinary information. He said, although those with specific affiliation may actually be able to go through the karmic connection, nevertheless, it is not a physical place that we can actually find. We can only say that it's a pure land in the human realm, and unless one has the merit and actual karmic association, one cannot actually arrive there. So that just sounds like a vibration, a vibe. You know, you can't pass through if you don't have the right vibe. Always reminds me, I don't know if you guys have saw, what's it called? The Old Ways. It's in Mexico, and it's about, you know, like a reporter who goes like back to her roots, gets possessed, and so on and so on. But just what I'm trying to say is that they have like a spell over the door where they can't pass through, and that just reminds me of that and what we're talking about. This frequency, this vibe, this part of the toroidal field that I've gone to town on. So if you're into the toroidal field, the torus field, go and check out my videos on that. It'll blow you away. The quotation is fascinating and states that the inner earth is real, civilization exists there, but unless you are from there, unless your ancestors are connected to it, you cannot go there. So it's basically what I've been talking about, this vibe, this frequency, this memory in your DNA, like a code, an access code. Could it be that? In my own quest and in my confidential conversation with an alleged and seemingly credible representative of inner earth, I have been told the same thing. My requests to be shown the inner earth, to act as an advocate, have been met with the same defiance. Your ancestors need to have lived there in order for you to go there. Right, let's carry on. The Nazis' interest in Tibet and its affiliation with the Inner Earth were partly inspired by Soviet expedition to Tibet in 1925, led by a rather unsavoury agent named Yakov Blumkin. The 13th Dalai Lama is said to have received Blumkin in Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, in 1926. After promising to provide military equipment and a loan, Blumkin was taken to subterranean chambers beneath Palata Palace and shown, amongst many other things, gigantic forceps over 10,000 years old, which when heated to high temperatures transmuted into a powder that the rulers consume in order to extend their lives by hundreds of years. In 1929, the Soviet authorities executed Blumkin because it is believed he had divulged to the Germans information about Inner Earth which he obtained in Tibet. No t-shirt today. It's underneath there. It is a Thor one. So there you go. But the temperature's dropped around here lately. We're heading for some snow, I think. But we have to crack on. So the reader will recall that Patala or Patala in Hindu mythology is the name of the Inner Earth. The name of the palace guarded by the Lamas is Patala Palace. Throughout India, there is a belief that from ancient times that a subterranean race of serpent people dwells in the city of Patala and Bhagavati, while the entrance to Bhagavati is said to be located somewhere in the Himalayas. Believers assert that Patala can be entered through the well of Sheshna in Benares, India. Its entrance is said to include 40 steps which descend into a circular depression and terminate at a closed stone door which is covered in carvings of cobras. Not that, but do you remember the Golden Child where he descends in for the knife? This just gives me that vibes. In the past, Maharajas have spoken of the abode of the excellent ones, ruled by the Naga, half-human, half-reptilian species with advanced technology. According to the legend, the Naga warned war of the kingdom of Agartha. They are described as a highly advanced race that harbour a disdain for humans, who they are said to abduct, torture, interbreed with and eat. Even the famed Russian philosopher Nicholas Roerich had an experience with the Inner Earth in this region. Roerich claimed that an entrance to Shambhala was protected by lamas and connected via an underground passage to Lhasa. Those who go there need to negotiate extremely dangerous and narrow passages. In his book Shambhala, In Search of the New Era, Roerich wrote, "Great Shambhala is far beyond the ocean. It is the mighty heavenly domain. Only in some places in the far north can you discern the resplendent rays of Shambhala." Shambhala is such an adventurous and romantic legend that Hollywood featured it in 1937 Frank Capra film Lost Horizon. While not set inside the earth, the film depicts a hidden and idyllic society in the Himalayas, much like Shambhala, Shangri-La. So let's carry on. So funny when you're reading so much how you get lost, you don't realise you're filming it, and you're like, oh, picking my nose, scratching my head, and doing whatever. So next bit talks about, it's got a subheading of pole position, subheading. So of all the Inner Earth adventures, none was as accomplished as Admiral Richard Byrd. And please don't start triggered if you believe it or not, I'm just reading the information out. Shame that you've got to do this all the time. Common sense, I'm reading information out. You can take it on board or not, but the information has been spelled out there for a reason. Whether it's fictional, right, I don't know. But it's intriguing to me because it's painting a picture. So, accompanied is Admiral Richard Byrd, an American military hero who has received the nation's highest tribute. I've actually read the transcript that he did in the American Congressional whatever it's called, congressional place, like, and you can go through the transcripts where he talks about all this stuff. It's intriguing. He won the Medal of Honor. To say Byrd was a man of distinction and integrity would be an understatement. His work was trailblazing from aviating to polar explorer. His assignments were classified as top secret. A summary of his primary missions includes the following: 1926 North Pole Flight, 28, first Antarctic expedition with 2 ships and 3 aeroplanes. 34, second Antarctic expedition. 38, invited to join the German expedition. That's intriguing. That's one thing I didn't know, that he went on a joint German expedition before the war. That makes you think. 39, Antarctic Service Expedition. 46, 47, 4th Antarctic Expedition, Operation High Jump, the famed operation. 55 to 56, the last trip to Operation Deep Freeze, and in 1996, his son releases Bird's Diary. So let's move down. The release of Bird's Diary has been the subject of some controversy. Not surprisingly, it chronicles a vivid and an astonishing description of events that took place during the 1947 initiative Operation High Jump. I have presented a few of Bird's sensational insights below. What's intriguing me about this, and a lot of people talk about Operation High Jump, and I've mentioned it briefly in regard to my journalist research in this about the 2 islands, one at the north and one at the so-called south. And apart from me, it's had no traction over the last 5 years. People are talking about this stuff. People are talking about doorways, gateways. And the god of this fucking realm, the god that they've stated in all ancient texts, who they pray to first, the god of transitions and boundaries, the god of doors, amongst many other things, they've named 2 places in this realm. Now, is that even on one of them, if you remember back in Antarctic, he even got a place called, what was it called now? I forgot now. How can I moan and not forget? I forgot. Shortcut Island is next to it. Come on. Why? And this is what needs to be asked. Why are so many great channels, great people using the imagination, the theories, collecting all this information, are not showing the masses? Hey, you're talking about doorways and poles, yet they don't talk about the god of doors and poles. And there's 2 places they've named as possible locations as islands. But then you think, well, if they're called islands, is that where the doorways or gateways are? It's just astonishing that no one wants to talk about it just because I mentioned that god. You should be looking at it. It's it's bordering on just ignorance. It's crazy. The release. So here's the insights that I was talking about. Early morning base camp. I must write this diary in secrecy and obscurity. 3 hours after Bird's 6 a.m. takeoff, both magnetic and gyro compasses beginning to gyrate and wobble. We are unable to hold our heading by instrumentation. An hour later, there should be no green valley below. So something is definitely wrong and abnormal here. So that we start to see the famed, it's like a tropical paradise. What I would like to mention, and I didn't know, so to my ignorance, is that most, if not all, of the icebergs are fresh water. That blew me away. 4 hours and 5 minutes after Bird's 6 a.m. takeoff, we spot what seems to be a large animal of some kind below. It looks more like a mammoth. This is incredible, yet there it is. 5 hours and 30 minutes in after Bird's 6 a.m. takeoff, ahead we spot what seems to be a city. My God, off our port and starboard, wings are a strange type of aircraft. He states that they are decorated with SWAT stickers. After the event, Bird adds, the city seems to be made out of crystal material. Crystal, as you know, I've talked about this crystal a lot over the years. Rose-coloured lights that seem to be emanating from the valley walls themselves. He meets the master of the domain of the Ariane. The master calls the flying machines Flugerads and explains how they were fired upon in 1945. Bird attributes the master to having said, we see a great distance, a new world stirring from the ruins of your race, seeking its lost and legendary treasures, and they will be here, my son, safe in our keeping. Finally, the master adds, when that time arrives, we shall come forward again to help revive your culture and your race. Again, I'm only reading out what this information. If you've come across this work in regard to this master, let us know in the comments. On 11th of March, now back on the mainland, Bird describes the reaction he received when he shared his findings with officials at the Pentagon. I have just attended a staff meeting at the Pentagon. I have stated fully my discovery and the message from the master. All is duly recorded. The president has been advised. I am now detained for several hours. I am interviewed internally by top security forces and a medical team. It was an ordeal. I am placed under strict control via the national security provision of the United States of America. I am ordered to remain silent in regard to all that I have learned on behalf of humanity. Incredible. So many aspects of Bird's accounts are interesting, including his reference to having seen a mammoth, just like Jules Verne describes in his Inner Earth epic. This is what we're getting at, and this is what intrigues me about this cave theory, this hollow earth. There could be entrances everywhere. And again, could these methods of getting to these places actually be DNA activated in, the vibe, the frequency? Because we talk about oscillation, everything is a frequency and vibration, and they could be going through caves like this Bigfoot. If you remember my old video where I talk about how one of the original name was Saskits, and these came from caves. Now, just like what people talk about, how where did it go? Is it access through these caves? This is what's got me fascinated, especially when you watch certain films of beasts and things living beneath the ground. It just gets you thinking, is this why? Because if you remember, I watch, I can't remember its name. Because it just goes, when I'm thinking like this, I watch a lot of Bigfoot stuff, and on one channel they were talking about, and I've watched nature programs and these types of programs all my life. And when do you ever come across a dead bear, its carcass? You don't, do you? You'll see a few deers, a few of the bigger mammals, but you don't see them. It's like the old adage of elephants. You never used to see them until like the elephant graveyards. It's intriguing to think, like, do they know when it's their time they go to die? I'm just surmising and trying to come to a conclusion and thought process in my head. But we have all these talk of all these caves going from Turkey, funny enough, to the UK, all around the world. There's cave systems. It's not hard to be accessed these places through this. Bird also describes a quest for lost and legendary treasures. Upon completion of Operation High Jump, Bird gave what amounted to his only interview on the 5th of March 1947 edition of a Chilean newspaper by the name of El Mercurio. What he shared would have certainly hurt the US government and intelligence agencies, for it would be his last interview he ever gave. Admiral Byrd declared today that it was imperative for the United States to initiate immediate defence measures against hostile regions. The Admiral further stated that he didn't want to frighten anyone unduly, but that it was a bitter reality that in case of a new war, the continental United States would be attacked by flying objects which could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Admiral Byrd repeated the above points of view, resulting from his personal knowledge gathered both at the North and South Poles, before a news conference held for the International News Service. And these things get you, what we're talking about, where do these UFOs come from? Alien, come from other places, extraterrestrial, just meaning more land. But we always think of more land above the ice wall, if you believe in the ice wall, but we never think of the inward much, do we? Because there is a little stigma about that, and I don't know why. Are these claims to be believed? Again, Byrd appears to have embodied uprightness. The last entry in his diary seems to sum up his perspective while alluding to the truth of his discovery. It reads, I have seen the land beyond the pole, that centre of the great unknown. Indeed, it would appear that he had serendipitously Approximately 60 years later, the United States Secretary of State John Kerry, 1940, it's present basically, his birth and that, landed in Antarctica. Just, let's have a guess on these dates. Oh, 11th of November 2016, 3 days after the United States presidential election that saw Donald Trump upset Hillary Clinton. In doing so, Kerry became the highest ranking US government official to set foot in Antarctica. Kerry was on his second leg of his multi-stop trip. You remember, we don't fly because we're trying to save the planet, but we'll fly to Antarctica, all around the bloody realm, to set foot in Antarctica. Kerry was on the second leg of his trip that started in New Zealand and included a stopover at the International Climate Change meeting in Marrakesh, Morocco, before embarking on the 5-hour flight to Antarctica. Kerry fully expected Hillary Clinton to beat Donald Trump and preserves the policies of Obama administration. Still, the question remains, why of all time did he feel compelled to travel to Antarctica? Is there something he needed to share, and if so, with whom and with what? I'll show you an image of Secretary of State on the frozen section of the Ross Sea. Antarctica, the only landmass crossed by the prime meridian in the southern hemisphere. It's not like other continents. It's a peculiar place and a region with unknown unique rules. For a start, you cannot leave Antarctica with a souvenir. This includes rocks, feathers, bones, eggs, or any kind of biological material, including traces of soil. But that's the least of the weirdness. Thanks to the 1959 Antarctic Treaty, Antarctica deploys a distinctive form of governing. The countries that take part in the treaty include Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Chile, France, Great Britain, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, South Africa and Russia, and the United States. No single country owns Antarctica, but several seek to claim it, such as China. Curiously, in June 2020, US President Trump ordered the building of at least 3 heavy icebreakers for the Antarctic and Arctic regions, with a goal of getting a fleet in place by 2029. There's that yet again, it does make one wonder. The United States is not the only country to obsess about the North and South Poles. Not surprisingly, the Nazis did as well. Many believe that Hitler sent an expedition to Antarctica. In one curious account of the Third Reich in Antarctica, a letter allegedly written by Karl Unger, a crew member aboard the German U-boat 209, proclaimed that the crew had reached the interior of the Earth and did not want to come back. The letter also mentioned the German General Karl Haushoff and Rudolf Hess, a leading member of the Nazi Party, who says were correct about the inner Earth theories. The Nazis also provided detailed directions to the inner Earth via submarine, complete with maps. Again, if there is nothing to this, why is there so much information? And yes, you have to say, is it propaganda and trying to project something that is not right or not real? 100% you have to say so. But also, on the other spin, when people say, oh, well, all this information can be lies, but there's some hidden truths in it. And it's like people pick what they want to be right and what they don't want to be right. Again, this is why I just look at everything and try and formulate and, bring together so much information. Again, like I was saying, if there was just one thing and when you add up all these thousands and thousands of tales that I'm not even going to mention today in this video, but everyone talks about it and people are fighting over flat earth, concave, crater. And again, all these theories fit. And where do they fit? If you move it inside, in a dome, in an enclave, in a geode, in a cave, in a chamber, a room, prison, cell, a crypt, whatever you want. Tales from the Crypt, that's a good idea for a video. But as you know, I've put a post out saying, hey guys, you can pick the title of the video, and there's some brilliant ones so far. I'll only make my mind up near the end. So let's carry on. I don't have to go on a bit. I'll do this last bit and then I'll call it quits for today. So, advocates of the scientific view. It's one thing to wax on about Nazis and other peculiar accounts of the inner Earth, But what does the scientific community have to say about the audacious notion of civilizations living inside the Earth? I mean, this is what's always got me and why I do the hourglass thing, because we see civilizations just below, and people talk about muffled, but never mention this hollow Earth, because other maps and ideas and models have been promoted. Let's start with the grandfather of modern scientific thought, Edmund Halley. You know of the Halley's Comet or Halley's Comet, and his views on inner Earth. So I'll put an image of Edmund Halley on the screen. Edmund Halley was an English mathematician, physicist and astronomer, a Renaissance man who influenced many of the scientific advancements of the 18th century, although he is best known for discovering the laws of motion to compute and periodicity of a comet that would later bear his name, Halley's Comet or Halley's Comet, how you want to pronounce it. One of the most comprehensive theories concerned the inner Earth. In 1692, Halley proposed, and I didn't know this, the idea of hollow Earth, consisting of a shell 500 miles thick, two inner concentric shells, and at an innermost core, he suggested that atmospheres separated these shells, just like the stratospheres and all those different layers are the same outside in the Earth. It could be the same on the inner Earth, which is intriguing. He suggested that atmospheres separated these shells and that each had its own magnetic pole. That's intriguing, with spheres rotating at different speeds. So I just had to intercede here because I'm editing and I'm like, you know, when Edmund Halley and that was talking about concentric spheres rotating and magnetic poles rotating at different speeds, when you look and you have to laugh at the model that we have been projected today, they talk about how at certain places in the Earth it's 700 miles an hour or kilometers per hour, whatever you want to call it, and then it goes to 5 and then it goes to 3, and then at the poles there's no speed. So it's just funny that model matches what Halley is talking about in regard to the hollow Earth. I just had to put that in. It's like a little coincidence. He envisaged each inner region as having an atmosphere and being luminous and wet for it, possibly being inhabited. Further, Halley believed that escaping gas from the hollow Earth formed the aurora borealis, a notion that may not be far-fetched as it first appears. Pardon me. And one of the flockers was just briefly talking about the aurora borealis coming from within as gas. And big up them people who mentioned that. And here's a two-dimensional illustration of Edmund Halley's hollow Earth theory, and it just reminds you of the target, the bullseye, doesn't it? Another thought leader of Halley's day was Leonhard Euler, a Swiss mathematician, physicist and astronomer whose version of the inner theory lacked the concentric spheres of Halley's proposal, but added the notion of an interior sun. And I've been talking about this briefly in some of the videos, that if plasma can be created through sound and levitate, what do you see outside? You know, it can be created in an enclosed system. And what's funny is if you follow the path of the sun, isn't it at analemma, the figure of 8, the hourglass? Euler was well respected and considered to have been one of history's greatest mathematicians. Thus, the scientific community took notice of his theory about a single hollow sphere that contained a sun 600 miles wide that radiated heat and light for an advanced civilization that lived beneath. Euler postulated that the hollow interior could be reached through holes at the north and the south poles. And how would that be? Well, we'll just make up 2 lands, 2 islands that are named after the god of doorways and portals, but people won't take that on board. I have to keep ramming this home because I'm like, people talk about it. I get passionate. You can see. Euler postulated that the hollow could be reached through holes in north and south. Little Little did the greater scientific community realise how correct he may have been. And I'll put an image of Leonhard Euler on the screen. Euler and Halley have been influential and appear to have inspired John Cleves Sims Jr., an American war hero, trader and lecturer who in 1818 introduced an inner earth theory similar to theirs. Despite having claimed to have been unfamiliar with their work, Sims described the world as consisting of 5 concentric spheres with our outer earth and its atmosphere being the largest. He proposed that popular openings were large enough and gradually enough that it would be possible to actually enter them without being aware of the transition. And this is what I'm talking about, the cave roof falling through, cave in and so on. Could we just be living in these realms? Sims added that the inner earth surfaces are illuminated by sunlight reflected off the outer surface of the next sphere down and would be habitable, a warm and rich land stocked with thrifty vegetables and animals, if not men. Although Sims was a prominent advocate for the existence of inner earth, he never published under his own name. Thus, many believe that the 1820, 1 at 8, 9 at 2 is 11. These 11 just appear from nowhere. This fictional account, Simonsonia, A Voyage of Discovery, was his work. The story recounts the voyage of Captain Adam Seaborn from the United States to the centre of the earth. Travelling up the coast, Seaborn and his crew reached a point where the sky inverts and where they realise that the stars have changed, an observation echoed by Admiral Byrd and Olaf Janssen, who is from that book, The Smoky God. Here in the centre of the earth, Seaborn and his crew meet an ancient civilization called the Simonians. It's funny that after his name, isn't it? Who are a smallish people with surprisingly strength, white complexions, advanced knowledge of flight, a remarkable aptitude for the English language, and the ability to communicate with Seaborn and his men. Sims was keen, to say the least, and attempted to persuade Congress to fund an expedition to find the entrance to the centre of the earth in the Antarctic. Sims proclaimed, "I declare the earth is hollow and habitable within, containing a number of solid concentric spheres, one within the other, and what is open at the poles, 12 or 16 degrees. I pledge my life in support of this truth, and I'm ready to explore the hollow, if the world will support and aid me with this undertaking." Right, I'll just read one more bit. I'm just getting into this now. A few years later, a followers of Sims by the names of James McBride features Sims' theory in his book, Sims' Theory of Concentric Spheres, and corrected the historical context by citing Euler as an early proponent of a similar theory. Although Sims failed in his quest to sail to the South Pole, he picked up a devotee of his own along the way. Jeremiah N. Reynolds was an American newspaper editor, lecturer and author who accompanied Sims on the lecture circuit and carried on Sims' work after his death. Following in Sims' footsteps, Reynolds lobbied the government and succeeded where Sims had failed by speaking before Congress and winning the support of members of President John Quincy Adams' cabinet. Although Andrew Jackson opposed the project and later cancelled the initiative after he became president. Ultimately, Reynolds won support from the private backers and the expedition set out from New York in 1829. Reports of the expedition reveal that they reached a point where the sky inverted and the stars had changed, a phenomenon we have encountered before. Yet another notable component of the inner earth was Johann Carl Friedrich Gauss, a German mathematician and physicist known as the greatest mathematician since antiquity. Gauss had an exceptional influence in many fields of mathematics and science and is ranked among history's most influential mathematicians. Gauss worked out the mathematical theory for separating the inner and outer sources of the Earth's magnetic field and theorized that the Earth's history and geography can be explained by the planet being hollow with access at the poles. And I'll put an image of Johann Carl Friedrich Gauss on the screen. Continuing the tradition, Cyrus Reed Teed, a physicist and alchemist turned religious leader, proposed an inner earth theory that postulates that the Earth and the sky exist inside the inner surface of a sphere. Teed proposed a cellular cosmology that placed the entire universe inside a shell. He believed that we were living on the inside of the Earth, looking up at the universe, which itself just an illusion created by a strange solar mechanism. So I'll leave it there. I've got things to do, but this is intriguing. Right guys, let's carry on, and I've got a plain t-shirt on today. I know, I'm sacked. What's the world coming to when I'm wearing plain t-shirts? My God. Sorry about the pun. So let's carry on. So we left off yesterday. We was talking about Sirius Reed, Teed, and obviously Johann Carl Friedrich Gauss. Anyway, so the scientific community offers unexpected validation for the possibility of life beneath the planet. A modern-day expedition that appears to support the suppositions is Russia's Kola Super Deep Borehole Initiative, which created a hole 23 centimetres 9 inches in diameter over 49,000 feet in Earth. I'll put a picture on. The project, which was started in 1970 and took 20 years to complete, created the deepest artificial hole in history and revealed some truly amazing findings. For instance, at a depth of 8 miles beneath the surface of the Earth, the Kola Super Deep Borehole revealed fossils, 24 new types of long-thought-dead single-celled organisms. What are fossils doing at such extreme depths? The project also discovered water far deeper than previously thought possible. Suddenly, the existence of a world beneath ours was no longer a fringe theory. It was a scientific reality. The only problem is that the discovery was ignored, even discredited, by a tabloid sensation which featured an article called "The Well to Hell." The urban legend recounted how a borehole in Russia had been drilling so deep that it had broken through into the biblical hell. The tale maintained that a team of Russian engineers, purportedly led by an individual named Mr. Azakov, had drilled a hole nearly 9 miles deep beneath before breaking through into a cavity. Intrigued by this unexpected discovery, they lowered a heat-tolerant microphone along with other sensory equipment into the 9-mile deep well, at which point they recorded the tormented screams of the damned in hell. This fictional story was clearly inspired by the Kola Super Deep Borehole and sadly overshadowed and ultimately undermined the significance of the project's impressive findings. So, again, like anything, are they miscredited? Did this happen? Did it not happen? Again, this leaves a lot to the imagination. But these things have been going on forever and are going on forever. So why are they doing it? For instance, I'm going to show you something now. And if I click on it, I'll hopefully put an image on screen so you can read it out. So this article's 2 years old. And I didn't hear about this. Some of you may have. China begins drilling one of the world's deepest holes in the hunt for discoveries deep inside the Earth. Narrow 11,000 metre shaft will reach the Earth's crust to study internal structures as China seeks to explore new frontiers. That number 11 again. But it's just a coincidence, guys. Ignore when I put everything into it and show you that they use it as a transitional number. Something is happening. They like to get this 11 in. And this is basically talking about the 11,000 metre drilling project. China has begun digging its deepest borehole in an effort to study areas of the planet deep beneath the surface. The drilling of the borehole began on Tuesday in a desert in the Tarim Basin in China's northwestern region of Xinjiang. According to the Chinese state-run news agency, its planned depth of the 11,000 metres. The narrow shaft will penetrate more than 10 continental strata and reach the Cretaceous system in the Earth's crust, series of stratified rocks dating back 145 million years. The project is expected to be completed in 457 days and has been hailed by the Chinese state media outlets as a landmark in China's deep Earth exploration. So you've got to think, why are they doing it? Why? It makes you intrigued, doesn't it, why they're all doing it. I mean, there was another operation, this time by the States, in the 1970s, and it was Project Moho. And I'll show you an image on the screen so you can just see. And Moho is short for Mohorovic discontinuity is a long way down. It's just an article. In May 2023, the first samples of the Earth's mantle, the silicate rock layer between the crust and the outer core of the planet, was pulled by the research vessel Jodez Resolution. The rocks were taken from where they had welled up in the mid-Atlantic massive tectonic window. And this is talking about something happening. And then it goes on about, Jules Verne might have had people journey into the centre of the Earth in the 1860s, but outside of science fiction, humans have barely explored the lithosphere, the rocky outer layer of the planet, much less its deeper regions. And these again talk about the Kola superdeep borehole. But in the late 1950s, the American Miscellaneous Society, AMSOC, that's what they call themselves, according to this article, came up with an idea to reach the Moho, the presumed border between the crust and the mantle below it. And this was in the 70s. And they funded it to dig, and I'll show you some images that I've got off the web. And you can just see they wanted to do this dig out in the ocean, which is a lot harder to do than on the land. So you've got to ask yourself, why are all these people and countries digging to get down? That is what is the question, the what if. If we're what they say we are, there's no need, is there? But it's like there's a race to get deep down. Scientific discovery, so I'm going back to the website now. Scientific discoveries about the mysteries of the inner Earth are occurring with increasing regularity. In June 2020, science publications around the world announced an astounding discovery. A new method of analysing earthquake data has been found. Even more of the previous detected continent-sized zones at the boundary between the planet's core and mantle. This has shown us that the core mantle boundary region has lots of structures that can produce these echoes. And that was something we didn't realise before because we only had a narrow view. And the overall findings suggest the Earth's guts are rather more blobby than we suspected. The implications of this discovery is staggering. But if anyone's listening, scientists have been proclaiming the existence of inner Earth anomalies for centuries. So far, at least, their insights have been largely ignored. So you've got to ask yourself why. We then go to the next heading, and it says holes in the poles. Euler, the mathematician, and others believe that the inner Earth could have been reached through wide gaping holes at the north and south poles. Is the audacious postulate even remotely based in reality? Let's look at some photographic evidence that suggests Euler and the company may have been correct. Now, this is one of them things that I showed you in the last video. Is it from ESA, the Satelloon? And to me, it looks CGI, but when do NASA never do this? But if you just go off the information, like I was showing you in that video, it looks like an hourglass because when it's hollow in the centre, generally it creates that vortex of land going down below. Or it could just be that's where the holes are, like Euler and company have been talking about. So I'll show you the images that NASA, and remember NASA, it can trace its etymology back to a cave. It's etymology, a cave. They even train in caves. They call themselves cave nauts. Why is that? So I'm showing you images of it taken in 1967, and then I'll show you the one taken by the Mir space station in 1987. You know, the Russian submarine station Mir, showing its light emitting from the North Pole. The US Environment Science Service Administration, ESA, that was talking about before, was created in 1965 as part of the reorganization of the United States Department of Commerce. Its mission was to oversee the weather's nation and climate operations. Their photos, if authentic, are compelling, for they depict opening at the poles. So you've just got to ask, are these legit, or are they just trying to create this movement? It's hollow, you know, because you have to say all of the above. But it makes you think, doesn't it? Right, I'm not finishing, but I'm stopping so I can edit. I don't want to do too much at once because there is a lot to do. So let's carry on. We're back and forth. It's just a huge video, but what can I do? I've got so many things to do. So we just talked about the ESA images, and we know NASA like to use CGI. I have to keep a straight face for this, but I do know some people will be triggered. But hey, we just have to go through it. So in many instances, NASA images appear redacted, and the poles seem to be disguised with nondescript images. And I'll show you an image of the blue marble. Remember, Ma means death. So you can see some images, and you can see it's retracted or redacted. But we know they use CGI images to produce these. You know, even the ardent supporter know they use CGI. They've even said it themselves. So that's nothing new. So in April 2020, a most peculiar celestial event occurred. The largest ozone hole ever recorded above the North Pole closed almost as quickly as it formed. Hey, but this has been going on for years and it just closed. Conspiracists claimed it was a portal to the inner Earth. And remember, portals have a god. Oh, and the god is Janice. Hey. You know, it's just crazy that these holes are portals, and who's the god of portals? But hey, what can we say? Others credited the newly discovered comet Atlas, which we've also talked about in recent videos. Atlas being regard to the hourglass, which broke into pieces while moving in the general direction of Earth and nearly came into near contact with orbiting satellites. You know, there's satellites that have a graveyard. There's thousands and thousands of them, but yet when we see images from the submarine station, they're gone. Oh, but they're higher up. Come on. Just come on. So just when we think the suspicious looking images of the poles might be fraudulent, we find the same phenomenon on other planets such as Mercury and Saturn. And I'm showing you images on the screen of Mercury and Saturn, how they have, one of them is like hexagonal and the other is just basically the same image that was near enough redacted of Earth, because I've showed you in other videos and other posts over the years that all the craters match the moon and different things on other planets. They're just using the same images but changing the scenario. So in 2014, the NASA Cassini spacecraft captured a curiously anomaly. Saturn's north polar vortex was hexagonal. We are told that the hexagon, which is wider than two planet Earths, owes its appearance to the jet stream that forms its perimeter. Are we blinded by the science, or does the shaded symmetric region of Saturn's North Pole represent the same thing that polar anomalies on Earth do? Access to inner Earth. And the next bit is about Brian Cox. I'm not even reading that out. That guy just, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. So that is basically him talking about these planets, these poles might be access for other life to live underneath the ground. So we're going now to another subheading. It's called Race for the Relics. So this is what this guy who's done the website is basically trying to get at. So rumours about the existence of the inner Earth have percolated for a long time, which they have. We have learned of its presence from a variety of sources, all fascinating, although some more credible than others. The purported concept in these theories is that civilization exists beneath the Earth, which access points scattered across the planet, in mountains, caves and places and palaces, but especially at the poles, which appear to be open portals to the subterranean realms. We are told that each region is populated with its own rivers, lakes, oceans and suns, which I've showed you, just like they are as above the Earth's surface, i.e. the Americas, Africa, Europe, Asia, etc. We cannot help but be reminded of the ancient adage, as above, so below. Why did they say it? We have also seen the scientific community, the modern day space program, and the projects like the Russian Kola Super Deep Borehole suggest that intelligent life beneath the Earth's surface may not only be possible, but probable. The question remains, what is actually down there? What were the Nazis seeking? What did Admiral Byrd discover? Is there evidence to suggest that we may find it if we venture into one of the Earth's subterranean domains? The answer may lie in the work of the writers we reviewed earlier, like Alexander St. Eves Alvediri, how you pronounce it. The identity of the Eastern initiates who confided in St. Eves remains a mystery, but at least one confidant appears to have been a shadowy Afghan known as Haji Sharif. What St. Eves was told by these emissaries of the inner earth is sensational and warrants our attention. He shares what he was told about the immense collection of underground chambers that are preserved by the inhabitants of the inner earth and the abundance of knowledge they contain. The reader should picture in his mind a colossal chessboard that extends under the Earth's surface to cover almost every region of the globe. The scene is set. We are told that Earth is covered with chambers. For many centuries, the archives of Paradisa occupy thousands of miles. For cycles of many centuries, several high initiates possessing the secrets spend 3 years carving on stone tablets all the facts concerning the 4 hierarchies of sciences, forming the total corpus of knowledge. And initiates of that St. Eves, the libraries that contain the true body of all ancient arts and sciences of the last 556 centuries, are inaccessible to any profane sight or manner of attack. They are only to be found in the bowels of the earth. We are told that these chambers contain information of the arts and sciences over the last 56,000 years, hidden 11, and St. Eves proceeds to add further information about where they are located. The libraries of early cycles are to be found beneath the seas that swallowed up the ancient southern continent and in the subterranean constructions of ancient antediluvian America. All the splendours of humanity's time on Earth can be found in each square of this chessboard. So you've always heard over the years, like the one in Grand Canyon, where people have found caves and they basically... Am I still recording? Yes, I'm still recording. I've gone into the caves and the chambers, and they've gone for miles and miles and miles. It's just, these chambers are all interconnecting. The initiate proceeds to talk about how the secrets will be revealed the day when Europe adopts a more spiritual form of leadership. On the day when Europe finally replaces the anarchy of its general government with Trinitarian synarchy. I've done a whole video on the Trinitarians. Of all these marvels, as well as good many others, will become spontaneously accessible to the representatives of its first amphitectonic chamber, the chamber of teaching. And it goes on, we were warned, or we are warned. But until then, woe to the curious and the careless who endeavour to scour the earth. What good would come to the profaner who has succeeded in forcing open one of the underground squares of his brain? This integral memory of humanity, with its dreadful weight, the stone door that seals each of these squares, lacking of any kind of keyhole, will fall shut upon him, never to be opened again. All these doors and keys, who is the janitor but Janice? In vain, before realising his terrible fate, he will find himself facing the mineral pages that make up the cosmic book, unable to spell every single word of it, not able to decipher the least of its mysteries before realising that he has descended forever into a tomb which he cries will never be heard of a visible being. So this is basically talking about Eves and different things. The proclamations are clear and sound, more like a threat than a warning. Enter the scared chambers and you will be trapped inside for eternity. Ludwig Straniak was a German mystic with a unique gift. He was a renowned pendulum dowser. His work was well known in the German occult circles, and it did not take the Nazis long to track him down and put his skills to the test. The Nazis' obsession with the occult is well documented. They were determined to prove the ancient urban roots by obtaining relics of power from antiquity, and in the process justify their expansionist ideology. To this end, they sought individuals with paranormal skills who could aid in the relic quest and military prowess. Straniak was rigorously tested by the Third Reich, who desperately wanted to one-up the Allies, basically, who were also enlisting the occult practitioners in their military ranks. The Germans even created a military unit called the Institute for Occult Warfare, of which Straniak was a member. As the story goes, the German Navy provided him with ocean charts, which he successfully dowsed, pinpointing the precise location of the warship in question, even though it was a secret mission off the coast of Norway. And I'll put an image of Ludwig Straniak on the screen for you to see. Right, I'm going to call it quits there for today. Oh, I didn't realise. I told you it was a lot of information, didn't I, guys? And you're like, oh, yeah. It's just a little bit of a website. There's a lot of information. And me extending it with my own thoughts has made it a really good video. I'm enjoying it. So, guys, before I carry on, normally it's a t-shirt. But today it's cold, so I haven't got it on. But it's always hanging up in my little room here. And it's old school, and it was something that I used to wear when I originally started the channel out many years ago. So as you can see, focus on the camera, can I get it? There you go. So it's a Black Sheep Researcher, and in that writing there it says, where we search for the truth, outcast style. So it's the Black Sheep Researcher, and on the back it says outcast style. It was something I was many moons ago going to get made, but I never found the right people to do it, because to me it's all about trust and cost and things like this, and that was something I was going to go down that route, but you know what I'm like, I never rush. So you can see that is a t-shirt for the day. Now I'll put my music with that I have me thoughts. So let's carry on. So we were just on about Straniak, wasn't we? Before I finished. And Straniak was not the only map dowser of his era, and there continues to be a quest for skills like his in modern times. Look no further than MK Ultra, the CIA mind control program that makes use of occult disciplines such as remote viewing and map dowsing for covert purposes to this day. Even in modern times, accounts of contact with the inner earth reverberate through the fringe press, only being sanitised or suppressed altogether. In 2001, for instance, nearly 300 people were arrested or detained in Turkey on suspicion of involvement in the national revolutionary movement known as what I was mentioned before, Ergenekon or Agartha. Authorities claim deep state forces, specifically members of Agartha, were planning a coup with the help of senior leaders in the country's military and security forces. Did they succeed? Only time will tell. My colleague and good friend Klaus Donner is an authority on ancient history like a few others. In recent years he has developed an ability not dissimilar to Straniak's, only modernised. As incredible as it sounds, his unique technology can locate chambers buried deep underground that were deposited with artefacts many thousands of years ago. Donner's work has validated subterranean chambers across the globe, from Iran to Crete and from Russia to England, where we are working together on a number of projects. Together, Donner and I have launched an initiative called Project Restoration to unearth the chambers described by St. Neves al-Dawdari. At the time of writing, the Ho 19 has stalled our primary excavation in England. Although I'm not at liberty to elaborate on this project, I can share an example of a similar quest that has led to curious and reaffirming realisation. Now, what got me about when people talk about the word subterranean, I've done a video on it, and if you remember, basically one of the biggest powerhouses in this realm for religion is the Vatican, or what is known as the Holy See. So in Latin, the Eternal City, which is another name for that, and it is basically Urbs Aeterna. That's its Latin name. Well, Urbs Aeterna can be anagrammed into subterranean. Subterranean. And I put that in videos a while ago. So that's intriguing, isn't it? Talking about this subterranean. We're talking about the cave, we're talking about the hourglass, and all this about religion and how it's tied to rocks and the earth. It's crazy, isn't it? So in 2019, Donna identified the presence of an underground tunnel over 7 miles long, which emptied into a large chamber approximately 100 by 300 metres in size. In an attempt to validate his findings, I entered a private estate in hope of confirming the precise spot on the ground that he identified on the map. As best I could ascertain, the chamber spanned a large, mostly wooded area that crisscrossed a nested series of roundabouts. I tracked down the owner of the estate, explained my quest, and asked if we could stay in touch. That evening he called and expressed his astonishment at the fact that we had identified the precise spot at the edge of his property. He proceeded to tell me about a sophisticated woman from South Kensington, London, who had moved into a large tent in the centre of the wooded area above the alleged mega chamber. Most assumed she was homeless and not for her complete faculties. Nevertheless, the owner of this adjoining estate suspected otherwise, introducing himself and asked her what she was doing there, living in such in a hospital area environment. She replied that it was her honour to have been selected by the society to guard the site and protect what was buried below. A peculiar reply, to say the least. Sadly, the woman was found dead in her tent, having protected the site for nearly 7 years. The cause of death was unknown. So I can't validate any of this. So I'm just reading out his information. I continued my investigation and knocked on the door of a house just beyond the private estate that our analysis suggested may contain an entrance to a mega chamber. I was greeted by an eccentric man, approximately 45 years of age, who had lived in the house his entire life. The place was in a bit of a state, and as I entered the living room, I tripped on some clothes that had been piled on the floor. As I attempted to regain my balance, I scuffled my feet on the carpet floor, and in the process noticed a large and rather distinct hollow sound beneath. This is, to me, it's too much of a coincidence. It's been elaborated. We all have filters, don't we, in regard to how we see things, and that just sounds suspicious to me. I'm not saying it is, but I have to be honest. In hindsight, I am appalled at the impudence with which I proceeded, for I asked the man if I could pull up the carpet to inspect the wooden floor below, in the hope of finding a hatch to the anticipated mega chamber. I was astonished when he obliged. We quickly moved his furniture to one side and ripped the carpet from the hardwood floor below. There was no hatch in sight. The owner reiterated that he was not surprised because he could have been aware of one had it existed. I apologised for the inconvenience and began putting everything back in place when I noticed he had paused deep in thought. Slowly he recounted a story, more for his benefit than mine. He recalled the time his father had moved him and his mother into a trailer in the back garden for a few weeks while workers installed a new floor in the house. He remembered standing on the edge of the structure, intriguingly where we had just pulled up the carpet, and looking down at the pit below. He said he remembered being astonished that he could look down at the steep drop-off, an enormous hole in the ground. He recalled how his father rushed over and grabbed him by the back of his neck, pulled him back and shouted at him to stay away. To me, again, suspicious. That's just all I can say. But, I'm not there, but he was asked before and didn't, something this intriguing. Oh, there's a big hole, a chamber there. Oh, yeah, my dad, on this. You would say that automatically, not like, like the tale has been said. I gasped at how he recalled the story. Clearly from the cobwebs of his memory, for 30 metres was the depth we had calculated, and given his description, that estimate felt about right. As I left, I apologised again for the intrusion. To my surprise, he thanked me for reminding him of his father and the memory he had forgotten. As I departed, I drove into an industrial estate so I could circle back on myself and head home on the London road. There in front of me, in the middle of the most mundane of car parks, were two demon statues aligned on the location of the legs mega chamber. Was I imagining this, I wonder? On the other side of the 7-mile tunnel, I explored multiple sites where Donna had identified the presence of underground chambers. As I investigated the area, I stumbled upon an intriguing medieval chapel. I never turned down a chance to explore an old chapel, and on this occasion, I would be rewarded for my efforts. As I entered, my attention was drawn to a grandiose tomb with exquisite marble carvings in the far corner of the sacristy. After examining it, I studied what remained of the original stained glass windows. I was transfixed on an image of a tall, medieval, solemn-looking man with what appeared to be a very contemporary-looking man bag slung over his shoulder. There was something unusual, sinister about the image. I took several photos and made a note to investigate it later. Later that night, when I studied the image in my hotel room, I was again drawn to the bag, which appeared to contain sheets of checkerboard maps with curious symbols in each square. I was reminded of what Saint Yves de la Dre has been told by the initiates of the inner earth about what had been hidden, a colossal chessboard that extends under the earth's surface to cover almost every region of the globe. I was also intrigued by the long blue strap that secured the bag and surmised that it must represent the local river. I traced it on the Ordnance Survey map and convinced myself that the river was what the bag strap symbolised. I shared the image with Donna, who noticed that the blue bag strap connected the so-called checkerboard maps on one end and a yellow shell on the other. He instantly recognised the shape. It mirrored the mega chamber. The blue man bag strap was not a river, it was a tunnel. I speculated the contents of the man bag depicted on an inventory of ancient chamber sites across England and possibly beyond, each square containing a symbol that identified the contents of this particular room. We knew that further insight lay in the identity of the individual depicted. Our research suggested that the accused figure is William Ufford, 2nd Earl of Suffolk, 1338 to 1382, an English nobleman in the reigns of Edward III and Richard II. Ufford descended from a line of Crusader knights and was awarded the prestigious Order of the Garter for his service to the realm. He fought in the 100 Years' War, like his father Robert before him, and became a trusted advisor in national politics. He died childless and under mysterious circumstances while attending Parliament. Reports claim that he collapsed in a fit as he ascended the Parliament House steps, where he was scheduled to represent the grievances of the Commons to the Lords. His title was retired and his property was dispersed. We looked further and discovered that the image may in fact represent Ufford's escape from the insurgents of 1381 peasants' revolt, an unusual situation in which the angry mob respected and sought his representation. Robert Edward Chester Waters described the scene depicted in his 1878 book, Genealogy Memoirs of the Extinct Family of Chester of Chickley, their ancestors and descendants. The insurgents designed to carry him with them by force as their leader, but he avoided the dangerous honour by escaping through the mob in the disguise of a servant and joining the king at St Albans with a wallet on his shoulder. Bingo, we discovered that what our modern eye deems to be a man bag was now known in the 14th century as a shoulder wallet. Ufford was under siege and it made sense that he transported the most important documents in his possession directly to the king. Ufford was an important man, clearly someone with influence and access to power. We learned that he was dressed in a long brown robe, with his face like a bar and unusual large nose almost completely concealed. He was dressed as a stable hand, enabling him to perform a covert operation for King Richard II. Still, I could not explain the peculiar ancient symbols in his wallet, including a swastika, an ancient religious icon in the cultures of Eurasia. I studied the image once more and noticed that the arch design above his head was coloured green. as was the decoration around his family emblem. I reflected on the fact that when confronted by the rebels, Ufford was dining in Bury St Edmunds, a short distance from Woolpit, home of the legendary Green Children from St Martin's Land, the place where the church bells first alerted the Green Children to the world above theirs. I wondered. So I'll show you an image of Ufford carrying a wallet and coded treasure maps to King Richard. And, you know, it's an intriguing image for sure. And I'll show you a few images of that and hopefully a close-up of that. Another site that Donna's technology pinpointed was an English port town, a place of strategic importance for over 1,000 years. Curiously, the location specified was not in the historic district, rather it was across town in a nondescript industrial estate, basically a centre. I investigated and discovered a peculiar series of high-tech looking hatches in the ground, which unambiguously looked like access points to whatever was beneath. At one end of the series of deep subterranean chambers that Donna had identified was a high-tech heating and cooling plant with an enormous sculpted tower that defied its industrial location. I was reminded of the Philippines, where the Japanese had hidden looted treasure in deep chambers at the end of the Second World War, and had later returned to build hospitals, schools and cemeteries for free as a gift, but really as an excuse to dig for what they knew was buried beneath. I wonder if it's the same technique that has been employed here, and if so, by whom. So guys, we're at the last stretch now. It feels like I've been doing this reading for ages, but there was just so much information, like I really said at the beginning. So let's get to the last bit. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Perhaps the best known quest for buried treasure chambers is that of Oak Island, Nova Scotia, Canada. I had written about the mysterious treasure island in 2007 when an informant named Will had shared snippets of his father's alleged exploration around the island and the sensational things he had discovered. In 2019, Donna produced a detailed map of the chambers in and around Oak Island. I approached the executives of the popular television show The Curse of Oak Island and offered to provide the precise location of the elusive chambers, only some of which date to the time of the Knights Templar. Project Restoration's primary focus is on the ancient chambers. In our research, however, we observe that the Knights Templar had deposited their own artifacts close to the older, deeper chambers. Our investigation suggests that the Knights Templar encountered the custodians of the inner earth in the east and learned of their motive mythology for burying relics, documentation and artifacts, and mirrored it. I Skyped with the Curse of Oak Island producers and stressed that we did not need to be filmed or featured in the show, and neither were we looking for riches. We simply wanted credit for discovering the chambers. I also stressed that I was an established voice of reason on countless television shows, and that both Klaus and I had long histories of holding responsible executive level day jobs. In other words, we were serious professionals. Still, they passed up on our offer. A few months later, I was asked to contribute to a program called The Curse of Oak Island, drilling down the Shakespeare connection. The episode was featured at the end of Series 7 in 2020 during the late spring lockdown. Disgruntled fans stormed the show's many discussion forums to express their disappointment about another season of promise but no discovery. They had been digging for over 7 years and had found one object of significance in the process, let alone a chamber. I remember the producers that Project Restoration is willing to reveal its knowledge of the chambers in and around Oak Island at any time. In parallel to Project Restoration, Donna and I are working with initiates who claim ancestry from Inner Earth and provide guidance in our quest. One of our Inner Earth confidants, the same individual who had told us where to apply our chamber finding technology for what would become our primary excavation in England, divulged that London Crossrail project had been delayed due to the fact that they were desperately searching for objects that have been buried deep in the earth in a distant epoch. I could not help but recall the 2017 Tom Cruise film The Mummy, where the London Crossrail project is delayed due to the discovery of an ancient chamber deep underground. Life imitating art, or art imitating life, you decide. Curiously, rumours have also circulated that not one but two hoards of inner earth treasure have been discovered west of London during the 2020 ho-ho-ho lockdown and quickly transported into the appropriate hands. Had the London Crossrail project unearthed a treasure chamber at last? Another inner earth confidant recounted the time when he was a young boy and his father drove him and his mother to a nearby farmstead. As they approached a large storehouse, the barn doors opened and several men walked outside to greet them. He recalled the men joking with his father that if they were not careful, the boy would be taken. Like the others, a proposition that upset his mother no end. After positioning the car over a metal platform, a hydraulic mechanism lowered it over 100 metres into the earth. Were they excited? They were greeted by men with dark suits, classic men in black attire. Conspiracially, the men who wore sunglasses to protect their eyes from sunlight reflected from the surface. He remembered being in awe of a massive crystal the size of a football pitch that portrayed the regions of the globe, including an island off the coast of Ireland that he was no longer existed. He recalled lots of men busy walking around the crystal as if working on a project of some sort. If the inner earth is real, it is inhabited, and if it preserves the history of all epochs that have come before us, then might these artifacts represent objects that have been left behind by more advanced races, civilizations that occupy our planet and perhaps still do, long before humankind, or as us from the future, only advanced and living in a different realm and frequency on our planet, reaching out to help us avoid extinction. Might the guidance of the inner earth peoples and their knowledge be needed today? If so, who knows what the chessboard chambers contain and what capabilities they empower. Regardless, it would appear that there is a race for the relics of the inner earth. Here's hoping the good guys get to it first. So there you go, guys. It's took a while and there's a lot of information, and I'm not going to go into too much. I'm just going to briefly do my thoughts, but that information was from the website done by Andrew Goff, and I will put the link for you to peruse at your leisure in the description, so you can go there and check it out. That's what I basically have been reading out, and hopefully you've enjoyed that little bit of information. Now, my thoughts.
Yeah, they call me the black sheep. You know they call me the black sheep.
Welcome. Right, guys, hopefully you all enjoyed that. I enjoyed making it. It was something different. I wanted to be fair to the guy Andrew Goff's blog, or whatever you want to call it. Now, some people will say, oh, well, he's mainstream and he's this and he's this. How about we just leave that stuff alone? How about we take a step back from judging each other? Because life is hard. Life is a shithole at times. A lot of times. There's people living homeless. There's so much bad things, negative things going on. And how about we, unite as humanity? We need each other. Even me, I am a hermit's hermit. I'm the antisocial social mediaist. I like my own company. I always have. It's one of my quirks of sorts. I have a high code of conduct, a valor. And for a long time, I used that to judge others, and that's not fair, because you would then become alone. And that's probably what has hurt this channel, hurt me for a long time. Because when you're alone, you can get picked off. You're solitary. You're in your cave. You're in your echo chamber. It's just your own voice that you are hearing. And to a lot of degree, I do prefer my own voice, my own reasoning. But you can't progress things. But we have to learn that it's okay to be different. What happened to having an opinion that is different? If, good on people that they use YouTube now as a business. You know, so a lot of the so-called truthers, it's a business. So that they are restricting themselves, but because when you get used to the kashing, the money, it's hard to go back to who you are, your roots. That's why I promised myself when I started this many years ago that I would stick to close as me as humanly possible. And that is held the channel back. It has had me deleted many times. I don't go on social media apart from this because I don't want to swim in the negativity. But if we're not swimming in negativity, you're not helping other people out. And although I prefer myself, I still know and feel the humanity with other people. And when we're looking at topics like this that create division, it's easy for someone to get on the keyboard and type some insulting and negative and spells because they're not face to face. 99% people wouldn't talk to you like that to your face. But the amenity of the computer and having multiple accounts, that's what happens as well as on YouTube and other platforms. All these channels have sock accounts where they come to insult you or try to promote their channel. Oh, why don't you do this and this? It's a crazy world that we live in. I ain't perfect. So people should stop pretending to be perfect. And I just love the idea of being open-minded. But like I was saying, it's hard to judge people with your own. We're not all open-minded, and we all forget that. Sometimes people are just who they are. And is it a thing you can learn to become open-minded, or is it a degree? Do we have a filter? I was listening to something on YouTube the other day with Les Stroud, you know, who's known as a Survivor Man. And he was being interviewed about his upcoming, or I don't know if he's done it now, but he's doing a video on Bigfoot because it's cryptoids and things like that I've always been intrigued by. And when we're talking about this hollow or inner earth or cave within a cave or the hourglass, you can just give it names. It's been here forever. Got really popular in the 18th, 19th century, obviously, to Jules Verne. But it's always been here. There's always been talk. Tribes have always talked about ant people or people coming from the cave to help them. The native Indians or tribes throughout the States and Alaska and so on have always talked about the hairy man coming from the cave. So when you start looking at these things and you now us all acting like dumps, it's funny that when they use that acronym, the deep underground military bases, it's that we are in a cave within a cave. And that is just my theory based on what I've compiled over the years. I was talking about it really before I even knew I was really talking about it. All the evidence was pointing to that. So when you compile and put everything together, it should be talked about. It should, people with that better bringing all the information and putting the pieces together, because there's always someone who's just like a savant at puzzles. And we need people. And if you are here to be negative, I won't reply. I'm not giving you my energy. And you should be ashamed of yourself. I could not look my children in the face and go, hey, to my kids, you know what? I'm going to be at a CUNT and I'm going to go onto a channel and I'm going to troll them. That is not something you should be proud of. And it just shows you the context and how your mind works and how what really a person you are like. Why not come on and say, Paul, I disagree. I disagree. That doesn't work in this model that you're talking about. Well, okay. Oops. Help me. What does then work? Because that's how we progress. Some of the biggest things in this realm have been when people have gone to try and prove you wrong, have helped to prove you right by doing other things, other experiments, other theories, bringing information that I forgot about. And that is what I want. We need each to help each other. You don't have to like me. I don't have to like you. You just have to love knowing where you are and being a good person. That's what I've always tried to be, a good person. Not always right, but we'll just put out how I see this place. And I started to lose myself a little bit. And I was wondering, should I carry on doing what I'm doing? But when I feel closer to the creator when I'm doing this. I feel guided at times. Some of the connections I've done in videos, to this day, I'm like, wow. Because it's like someone's just opened the door. And you know when you feel that warm light for the first time, and you're like, that's how it feels when you put things together. It's your journey, you're on a path. It's like you're walking down a path. It's dark, you got your head down, you're scared of what is out in the darkness. And it's just gone to light because you're seeing it for how it really is. And I've had many of those moments. I mean, firstly, I want to thank Neodrifter 8082 for the naming of this title. I should have done it at the beginning, but I just got carried away. And everyone else, you're making me make new content now because you made so many good titles. I'm like, at first I wanted like 3 or 4 titles in the one, so I have to get them all in somehow because it was just brilliant. But I chose this and I'm going to use the others and I'll give you a shout out when I do. I'm like, wow, good. It was a good idea by myself to do that. It lets you guys feel involved. And thank you. I was proud that so many of you decided to share your time and give me ideas for the title of my bad description. I didn't want to give too much away because I just wanted to, like I say, read this out. I don't agree with everything, but some of the points add to what I've made so far. And I constantly see other channels not wanting to talk about the elephant in the room, and that's like Janice. Because if we're in a cave, we're in a cave. And that's why it's so influential, this Janice god, because a cave is a liminal space. Now, I don't want to paraphrase it of sorts, but I've wrote something here down, and I'll read it out, and you can just see it there. It's at the bottom. And I'm just going to put it there so I don't have to look down. And basically, caves are liminal spaces because they're the physical and symbolic transitional zones. And that's an interest that exists in between one place and another. So who's the god of transitions? Who's the god of those places? This is why you could say we're in Janice's echo chamber of sorts. It's why the reference to doors is so prevalent and why I research it. But like how I've said, and I've made this thoughts 3 or 4 times, sometimes I'm taking numbers and names and I'm trying to fire up the troops, and sometimes I'm just going to be me. If you don't like me, what's wrong with you? This is why I research Janice, because of these facts. In that article, blog, or whatever you want to call it, vlog or website, he talks about basically doing his own project and how it got shut down in that lockdown. To this day, people don't link that lockdown with who it was a ritual to. And it astounds me. It's like, did I get it so wrong that people are refusing to acknowledge me, acknowledge that information from the link to numerology and the number 11? Because I've done videos on it. You've only got to go and check. Remember, if you think about it, persona and masks is etymology, isn't it? And your face is 2 faces. So when you were putting on another mask, it was changing personalities, because people feel they could talk, or it hid who they are so they could become someone else. So they were making a lot of 2-faced people. Sound familiar? The first death of that was on January the 11th. Coincidence. The machines that they tested him on was named after him. Coincidence. So these things just made me go, well, I can see this pattern and I'm making content on it and people are just, it's just not going in. And that is our filters. Sometimes things get through. We all have our unique filter, and that's what I was talking about at the beginning. Like, I was trying to put my filter on everyone else, and you can't. Sometimes we do lose patience with people because they can't see what we see, and that is what this realm is. You can't see what you see. When you spend enough time with someone, you become. It's like listening to someone's favourite music that they've always got in the house. You know, it can grind your gears, but you end up singing it when you're away. You become acclimatized to that frequency. You become on the same wavelength together. That's why a lot of people who watch my channel are on my same wavelength. They don't agree with everything, but when you get on the same wavelength, you start thinking the same. You connect to each other. Doesn't matter how far you are. How many times people have said it, I've thought something and I've done it the same day, or the next day a video's coming out. Because we're connected. Whether you want to be like me, a hermit's hermit, or you love being with people. We're all connected. We all need that humanity touch from time to time. And it was like me when I was creating content. I think I was I believe I'm humble as you can get, but sometimes you do get a little bit of that ego. It does drive itself in there, and I'm like, why is this research? Why is this getting ignored? Because I believe it's plain as day, and that again, that's like our filter. It's like that Les Stroud was on about. He talks about survival and different things, and someone will say, well, what else do you believe in? And you go, well, I believe in angels and demons and giants and so on and so on. And they're like, oh, yeah. And then you go, well, I also like Bigfoot, and you get laughed at. People have a limit, and I akin that to, like, what is this? What is it now? Some block cream. Think about it. I don't wear no cream. So, because I'm full throttle, I am who I am. I have no filter. So, I let everything in. And sometimes, if you let everything in, it's not just good, positive, you're letting everything in. Sometimes I need to block out the negativity, but life is about balance. We need both to know the difference. Some people will put cream on and block all the rays out, all the information, all knowledge. Some of the people out there will point that, hey, you're putting the cream on. It contains chemicals and poisons, and you're poisoning yourself. So that is just a look at just using that as a phrase of how we look at the word truth and what we let in. And again, there could be many out there that you could use. And that's the intrigue. We have a filter, pardon me, that blocks a lot of stuff out that was knowing it. And some of us let everything in. Some of us let some things in. Sometimes we let some things in, but we're poisoning ourselves. So these things matter. But does it matter enough to insult your man, your lady, whatever next to, or on the computer or online? We have to take a stand with ourselves when you see it. You've always seen that quote on it about a good person just watching something bad happen. Because they're scared of getting the repercussions against them. There's a lot of evil people out there that are fighting in God's name. How come you do evil things? Because truth, and you can go and check this, I've made a video on it and I showed you the evidence. Truth is faith. It's not what we've been taught. It's not what is, people say, oh, the truth is hidden in plain sight. The truth will hurt. Why does the truth hurt? It's not the truth. It's how you deliver it. It's you. And that is another thing what I've tried to do and make my content. I've tried to make it where I'm not hurting people. It's hard because you can get your snowflakes, whatever you want to call them. There's time when I didn't bat an eyelid using these terms, but we have to do better. We have to look at topics and be able to have a grown-up conversation. I'm a child. I am. And I'm too innocent at times. I treat everyone with respect. I treat everyone's information as just as good as mine. Inside, you might be going there batshit crazy, but again, that's your filter. We all do it. We all judge. And we all need to walk a mile in each other's shoes. It's hard being a content creator and not sound batshit crazy. People out there will think, oh, in Earth, hollow Earth, oh, it's not, it's flat. Because they've been programmed by these gatekeepers who tell you how to think, how to act with other people who believe in different. It's how I became the black sheep researcher, because I was told in all these communities that I'm hell incarnate, I'm the spawn of the devil, you are the black sheep. And I thought, you know what, I want to do what I do best. I'll use that and I'll fight back. And that's how I became who I was. So I've always talked about these topics and I'm open to all ideas. I believe everyone's model fits within a cave, because you've only just got to go in a cave. You can see it's flat, you can see it's concave, convex, donut, all these things. And then we start talking about the foundations of the earth, he's talking about the columns of the earth, people are talking about giant trees and the mountains and how identical they are to that. They're also identical to stalagmites and stalactites. They have tree rings just the same. Why is this not getting talked about? Why have we got to push one agenda? Why can't we push everyone's agenda? Because inspiration comes from the strangest places. And that is what I have always tried to be to inspire other people. Hey, you're autistic, you like being on your own. I'm looking after my mum, I have hardly any time, I spend it with my family. Life is hard to me, but I still want to give back. I still want to show it's okay to be the way you are and create content, and there's enough room for everyone to coexist peacefully. Because why do we have to be so evil to each other? We're in a community that we get ostracized. And this was another analogy that this Les Stroud was talking about. I think he was going about, hey, think about like Bigfoot or flat earth, concave, convex, donut, holograph, simulation. All these fit, create earth, all this fit in a cave. But just think of you in your chosen field, your theory, your model. And you're all meeting up. You're all at a convention. And you're all in a convention, I don't know, from 20 to hundreds of people, depending on how where it is and popular it is. Do you think the people outside those doors, or wherever you are, think you are sane? Think you are okay in the head? Think you are telling porkies? They all think you're nuts. They all think you're tinfoil hat merchants. So then why would you then go out into the realm and then create even more division by someone else doing another model? You're ostracised as it is. You're ridiculed. And we just keep doing it. It's the easiest thing of warfare. You let people do it for you. So when we're talking about these models and shapes and a cave within a cave, and I'm reading this information out, there will be people triggered. Oh, this guy's a shill, such and such. Because someone out there has made that decision for you, and you watch the channel and he said he's a gatekeeper and shill, so you have to defend him. You have to defend what he said. All people are different walks and people different things. I've always wanted my content to be free to everyone. But I used to have a bugbear about people putting paywalls. And I think everything should be free. to everyone, but that's just my opinion. But I understand when people get into it and they get bigger and bigger, they have bills to pay, you know. And this life, you know, unfortunately, nothing is free apart from the affection and respect that we can give each other and how we treat. So I changed my stance on that, but I'm still going to be free to everyone. You know, I even had huge channels saying, oh, you got adverts and you're monetized and all that shit. Do not read that big code, that email and message that YouTube gave you many years ago saying, even if you are not monetized, we reserve the right to put ads in your videos. And that's what happens. When you look at my big videos, hundreds of thousands of views, you'll see many breaks in them because it's getting a lot of views, so they want adverts in them. And they've ruined the video. I hate watching something that there's always breaks in it. But that's the world that it's coming to. They're breaking it all up. They're making you not want to watch it. You're supporting the channel. So watch the breaks. You can skip them. They'll still get the revenue. But you're supporting them. It's like me. That's why I ask you guys to like my videos. Why don't you like them? I get thousands of people watching them and less than half like. And I get, oh, well, they can track your movements and all that. They know what you're doing already. You're giving me energy. You show me we appreciate you, Paul. So we're going to hit that like. Can you imagine the feeling you get when you get the likes? Feel it this way. For instance, let me have a look at my phone. And this is just on the fly. Because I'm dead professional like that. Turn it down, I don't see it monetized. So check my last video. Come on, where have you gone? My last video, dead weight. And I love that video. Just thinking of something different. I got 3,500 views. And 330 odd likes. Why, you know, why can't more people like it? Because they're all on the feed. But it's showing you support. I look at it and go, God, I've had 3,000 people and only 300 people liked it. But I know people do like it because you're giving me your time. But it's this fuel. When we're in dark days and we're tired and life is getting you down. When sometimes you're down, sometimes you're too tired to get up yourself. Doesn't matter. I have a saying, I will always get up, no matter if I'm down to out for the count. It might take me a long time to get up, but I will get up eventually. But it's always nice to get a hand. Come on, Paul, we've got your back. Yeah. Getting emotional because you miss people that have gone. And you always remember them. You know, and we treat you like shit. Why? Because the truth is personal. The truth is faith. That's why if I'm challenging your faith, you get aggressive. It's just like the old people going to war for religion and politics. You get riled up because you're attacking your faith. That's what truth is. Challenging your beliefs. And it's hard, especially when you're talking about topics like this. It's like I see a lot of channels talking about, is there extra land outside of this realm? And some people believe in an ice wall, some people don't. Some people believe we're flat, some people convex, donut, crater, you name it. All those fit within an enclosed system, a cave, which the etymology, the spell of this realm, points to. You then think about all the tunnels and layers of this realm. That's why I was just talking about the hourglass. The feminine and the masculine. Feminine and the masculine together is the hourglass. Together. As above, so below. People talk about it being the hell realm. Talk about it being Sheol. Talk about purgatory. Are we here to experience it? Is it a simulation? All this can fit within this chamber, this room, this cave, this cell. It's all of the above. But think about it when you have, just say for instance, you've somehow lucky enough to buy an old house, but it's a bit run down, and you're in the bedroom, or you're on the first floor, but the floor's rotted and it falls through. Are you in 2 rooms, or are you one but there's a division? And if that caves through, you're in more of a hollow or holy space. Why is all religion tied to rocks? Rock worship. Why is information interpreted? We all interpret differently. The Peters, the Peters, the Fathers, the rocks. Everyone calls God the Father. Father is Peter. Peter, rock. It's all connected. People will be on here saying, oh, well, it's this realm, it's this God, it's this God, it's this God. Think about a janitor with the keys, and he has all the gods or the L's on that key, and he just wants to use another one. Opens another door, and it's like, remember, for people in the UK, stars in your eyes, today, Matthew, I'm going to be. And that takes me back, and that's what it is. People like to go, oh, well, the occult and Gnosticism, knowledge, all trace its roots back to a doorway, a gateway. Gnosis, no, N-O, or as we pronounce it, K-N-O-W, no, knowledge. Ledge is from a door, the knowledge of the door. So if you have knowledge of a door, you are more enlightened. Think about it. If you can open a door, just put 50 doors in front of you. They're all shut. Where's the light coming from? Until you open the door. There's your light. I'll open that door. And all to go. Light is information, is knowledge. So when we open that door in us to these transitional places, we're letting more light, more information in. Remember, we are Da'at. Anagram of Da'at, which is knowledge, is this place, is data. How many times have you saw that meme and image that we are data in the machine? So we just have to just look at all this information, and that's what I looked at this information. I thought, wow, I've been talking about this stuff, and just looking at all these cultures, all these civilizations talking about gods, entities coming from caves. You have the underworld, access to a cave. They're the liminal spaces, the sacred places. The rock is sacred. It's why when I broke down altar, it's connected to a mountain. The rock, the stone. God calls himself the rock. You have all these tie-in with rock and enclosed system. The masonry. What's that working with now? Masonry. Oh, a rock, stone. And how the second compass adds to an 11. Coincidence. And then below, both degrees added together adds to 11. That's just a coincidence. They even have degrees, the Masons, cave degrees. I talked about that many weeks ago, months ago. So all this, and just look at the word G in the second compass, and people are told, you are told, because you've always gone, and when you've learned stuff, what does the G in the compass mean? And you said, it tells you, Grand Architect. But why not say that? Or we're just using one letter. But what if that you're telling me Porkies or altered version? Could that G tell you that we're in an enclosed system of 11 degrees and it's a geode? Geo means earth. That's just a coincidence. So this is just what excites me about this. That we are talking about this realm. What's wrong? I've always wanted to like do something and get someone from that model to come together. But most of them just end up shouting matches because people believe you have to shout louder for the information to get heard. And that is what stopped me from doing more things. Maybe that's what people say and they don't want me on. Because that's what I've given up as well, like of doing collabs. I will start eventually to do the moot with the guys again, who graciously give me the time to do that, and just let me get myself back into the groove of sorts. But I wanted always to do more, and it's just like I've given up because I get ostracised, I get blocked, I get left alone from all these channels, and I want to do stuff with crossovers with people that you would class as normal, because everything intrigues me, everything excites me. And the reason I've stopped myself, and that's what I'm not doing no more, I'm not being scared of what the repercussions of doing a video with someone, because many times I've started to do series of interviews and all I get is, oh, this person's a shill, a gatekeeper, and I'm like, this person's a guest on my channel. Would you come, for instance, I knock on your door, oh, hello, Paul Black Sheep, come in. I walk in, pulling pants down and shit on your front. Shit, a big steaming dump on your floor. How would that go with you? Yeah, you know how it'd go. So why do people feel the need? It's okay to come in when you have guests. You don't have to agree. This is not me saying you have to agree. You don't. You have to respect. That person's invited that person into their home, and everyone should be treated with respect each. If it's not, it's shill, gatekeeper, demon. I wear different t-shirts and I got called I'm a demon because I wore a Batman t-shirt. And it's like, where'd you go? I've been told that my information is wrong because they talk to angels daily and the angels told them I'm wrong. Where'd you go with that? Oh, well, I talked to bigger angels and archangels and they said, no, you're wrong. And it's like, there's nowhere you can go with it. And this is what forced me to become even more of a recluse, because I don't need the shit. I just want to be in a room with like-minded individuals who acknowledge I've put time in and I've just put this two together. This is how I see this puzzle, and I've just put that puzzle together. Next week I might see the puzzle differently. I might have extra pieces. Or some weeks I'll have a piece missing and I'll theorise what that shape was. This is just what we're doing. So when we're talking about these things like inner earth, hollow earth, whatever you want to call it, the etymology of the celestials said we're in a chamber, we're in a room, we're in a prison, we're in a cell. And that is the ceiling and of the enclosed system, and all the videos that I've done towards that. So then when you jump round and go, hey, these guys, these from the 19th century onwards, who were going on the circuit talking about this hollow earth and Jules Verne, and they're talking about, there's two entrances. I believe there's many more. I believe what people call cryptozoology, the cryptids, and then you have what, when you're in the mud flood, and it's called bestiary and all those animals. Where do you think they come from? Are they being genetically modified and made? Or are these animals coming from other places? What I mean? Ancients talk about these hairy men coming from the caves. Is this why we don't see them? And someone will say this in it when I say this bit, but this analogy in a whole, for instance, I've watched 40 odd years. I've been into nature, survivalists and things like this. I've always loved it. And I wished I lived in the States where you could go more and more these places, but a point that I was making before is like, in the video, like, how many times do you see a bear carcass? Very rare, very rare. You might, someone say, there's always one. I've seen one. Like anything, you have to have that 1%. But I mean, on the whole, and it's like the skeleton graveyard. Where did the elephants go to die, and things like this? And it's like, you know, where are these animals? Because 90%, 99% of them could be fabrications, porkies, misidentification, and so on and so on. But what if they're not? I've saw some crazy shit in my life that I've mocked in myself because I try and give everyone respect, but inside, a voice in your head goes, you're telling porkies, or you're embellishing it, or your brain is trying to figure out what you saw, and this is how it delivers it to you to describe, which it can. So, what are people seeing all around this realm? They're seeing these hairy men. Now, I've not checked the validity of this because, you know, there's only so many times that you can go and check while you're making videos. But Les Stroud was on about, at one spell, 10, 20, 30,000 years ago, whatever it is, there were so many different types of hominid. You know, different types of so-called human, if you believe in that. So, did God just create us? Well, no, because there's animals. So what if there's hybrids? Because each cave, each chamber has a unique pressurized system and so us live in this realm and they live in that realm because they have to be different. You have the talking of the Sumerian, Anunnaki and all that, talking about how they modified humans to mine gold and different species to do what. So it makes you think, and that's what inspires me. So when I see channels talking about extra land as being the extraterrestrials and things like this, which I've done videos on, what if the extra land is not outside? It is outside, but it's not outside that way. It's outside up. It's outside down. Outside diagonal. Because they're in a chamber, a cave, and some are bigger. It's why when you see the new King Kong, Godzilla movies, the portals, the doorways, those liminal spaces take you down to a hollow earth with its own unique ecosystem. And instead of coming on here and trolling, how about you come on here and help? We all want to help. You know, that's what I believe I'm here to do. Help each other, help you. Because you can help you by helping yourself. And my brain just can't get around the fact, like I was talking about, that time period, that lockdown being a ritual to that God. Because it's all there. And when people are talking about these doors and portals, why are they not mentioning the symbolism of it? They have named those locations, those two locations, as Janus, the god of doorways, portals and transitions. I talked about that. I couldn't believe it when I found that. I'm like, another one of those aha moments, like, wow, is this right? I'm trying to get my head around it. And some of the people who watched it since thought like ginger grin. Paul, there's no coincidence. I hear a voice saying, there's no such thing as coincidences, Paul. And I always get excited about that because we're talking about doorways and gateways. And they've named the symbolism of two places that the so-called inner, outer, all this earth are talking about portals and doorways. If anyone else did that, it'd go down in the annodes of YouTubers. Wow. We need, these doors are there. These places are there. What are we in? And people are sometimes scared to look at what we're in because they don't want to know what we find. I've done videos and I've found alternate reasoning and answers to it, and I've put them in the video. I've said, hey, they think this, they think that. I'm not bothered about being wrong, because you can wrong today, you're right tomorrow, and you're right today, you're wrong tomorrow, and it just goes back and forward. It's just information. It just changes, because each of us are a piece of the puzzle. Each of us, I've got energy that can power a battery. We are batteries. We can power each other. You can make each other glow and light. I always remember that Kung Fu movie. Is it something about the dragon? And he goes, and it's got Bruce Leroy. I just love that film. He glows right ready back. I remember watching that as a kid, and I was into martial arts and things then. I somehow think, how have I got where I am today? Because I could climb, you name it. I was into it. I would just, I was like doing the free running before it was free running. I was just crazy. And, and I'm getting more and more of my past now. And it's funny that I'm remembering more now, because I'm being shown how my brain works. And it's crazy. But it's also refreshing. And I do get a lot more emotional, because I'm valuing that. We don't value each other enough. You can believe in an afterlife or whatever you want, but not enough of us are making each other's time here at the minute enjoyable. Why not? Why do we have to accept it's a shithole? Yes, we know it is, but why do we have to accept? Why can't we make each other's day a little bit better? And it's like that Tory always talk about, that when I, paraphrasing again, I used to go running a lot, said hello to someone, and then no one ever said hello to them. No one made them like they were alive. And I saw them again, and they were going to kill themselves that day. And me saying hello changed that. Why can't we do more of this? Because we're inbred to ignore each other, heads down. Society has changed, but we and it's like the community. We're always changing, but it's always changing in a negative way. And I want more and more people to share the stuff and stop with the egos. I know I'm deluded, but that is what it is, and that's why I just talk about this information. I saw some information and I wanted to share it with you guys, because I just thought, hey, that coincides with that, and there's countless more. I could have gone for weeks. So why are these people, these cultures, all talking about the same thing? Because there's always this crossover. I like that video I did about the hourglass and the squatter man. The squatter man was a symbol that cave people drew it in caves at hand. People talk about it being a plasma reset because of that scientist working plasma. He created that shape, but he was going to make that. But what if that shape that people saw in the sky was something else? What if that was the voice of God creating a reset to wipe this planet full of evil? Why does it match the larynx, the voice of God? Why is it referred as Atlas holding up the heavens? Why does that match? Because they're seeing the same thing, but people's filter is interpreting it a different way. But it all matches this theology of us being in a chamber within a chamber within a chamber. And places are just transitional zones to that. We're always taught that the underworld is down below and heaven is above. We're always told that Eden was a place of paradise. But what if it was in a cave? They left the Garden of Eden and then moved to the Cave of Treasures. So you can just say, and Plato's cave, all these analogies that you can use. But I just can't get my head around how people just ignore things because they don't want to hear me saying that, and have people telling me that they get regularly blocked from channels mentioning my name, mentioning Janice. It's a significant part. It's like, you know, if these channels, and I've had various discussions with other channels on this that I talk to. I don't want to mention names because I don't want to get, you know, it's confidence when you talk to me, you know, in these spaces. But you would be surprised on the people that I read out that are subscribed to the channel. Hundreds of thousands, some of the channels. But they never said one word to me, even though I've reached out 15, 20 times over the years. Why do you think they don't mention me on their channels? And this is not being an ego thing. I get a message all the time, Paul, that quite looks like your content and how you break down, because they use me as a source of information. Just like other channels, it's not just me. They use your content to make their content. And what if these channels say, hey guys, check out the Black Sheep Researcher. So you go and check it out and you go, well, he talks about that, but you talked about it before. But why has he never shouted you out before? Because you would give the game away. There's nothing wrong with being inspired by other people, even inspired by information that you don't really want or believe in. Because we get inspiration from one another. Whether you want to be on your own or not, we inspire each other. And this is why I do content like this, because I want to inspire myself and I want to inspire others by just looking at information and go, I don't think that's right, but I like that. I'll take that. Nah, I don't like that, but I'll take this, I'll take that. And then I'll give you a piece of my information that I can use and put in. We're all inspire each other. And that is why I researched this cave theory, because I've done videos on the realm of 11 and me going back and forward and just looking at the etymology. Why do NASA call themselves cave nauts? Why do they train in caves? You know, they also train in swimming pools and that, but you know, it's just pointing a picture that maybe the flat, the concave, the convex, the donut, the hole, the cave, the chamber, the crater are all places in a cave, and it just fits. You know, there's that old photo of a tree stump in a cave. How in the sweet Jesus has a tree that big got in a cave? You know, so these have to make you think, and you can find all these quotes and verses in the Bible and different things on different religions about rock, about being in a cave, and it's mind-blowing. And I'll keep revisiting this and doing other things and showing you different information, but it's a mind-blower when you just look at how other people think and say, hey, I think similar to that. I never thought of that. That was hidden in plain sight. What hides in plain sight but a cave? A liminal space, a portal between two worlds. And a cave ceiling, it just fell through. Because that's why we have that seismic activity. Just shakes the hourglass. And more of the cave is becoming a hollow. And that's why Neodrifter got it named Wallow in the Hollow. There's so many good other names, so I'll have to think how I can do content on that. So guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this, even though I've had a little rant and talking and trying to get us going and rallying behind different ideas. I always used to say after videos, do one good deed, pay it forward. And I had some people saying, well, don't pay it forward. But why not? What if you were here to help? Because, you know, life is fleeting and we are needed to help each other at certain times. Times I've been low, and someone's put a comment in and it's like, wow, that came from nowhere. Or was it? It was that helping hand that sometimes we need. So help people. You know. Also, if you're a CUNT, you're a CUNT. You know, be true to yourself. But you don't have to be true to yourself on this channel, because I'll just ignore you. I'm not wasting my time with negativity and people who think I'm the devil incarnate and all that shit. It's crazy. You can see who I am. I am who I am. People just have an agenda, and they just want to get traction. They just want to get noticed. You know, so I want you all to stay safe. If you want to help the channel, just please like it, please share it and subscribe it. I'm just go with the flow. That's always what I've done. So hopefully I'll finish an audio book soon, but I don't know what will come along next week or tomorrow. If you want to help the channel, you can do so by buying me a bar, which is buy me a coffee. Helps to keep the lights on and the radiators on. It really does. And I appreciate all the help. I appreciate you. And yes, even you, Sambino, sitting there in your thong. So guys, stay safe, always wear a smile, don't let the bar stools grind us down. Bye. Not much info there, but I'll just go with the flow. Much love.